Chapter 513. In some sense, there was still fairness in this world. If you wanted to be an imperial supervisor, you had to give up your foundation in Western Wilderness Prefecture. If you didn't want to give it up, you could only choose the inferior position of supervisor. According to Lin Min, the standard for an imperial supervisor was the late stage of gang spirit realm. With his current strength, he could barely fight with someone in the middle stage of gang spirit realm. As for those in the late stage, he couldn't afford to offend them. Therefore, he couldn't be an imperial supervisor for the time being. I choose supervisor. This is the imperial supervisor token. Master, please take it back. He held out the imperial supervisor token with both hands. Eunuch Gao's eyes flashed with appreciation. You're an ambitious man. I've seen a lot of people like you, but it's rare to see someone who can control his ambition. Besides, we never take back what we've given out. The imperial supervisor token is with you. When the time is right, you can take up the post yourself. Lung Shiqi thought to himself that Eunuch Gao's question was actually a test of his temperament. Thank you, master. He quickly put away the imperial supervisor token. As long as he had the imperial supervisor token, he could be promoted to an imperial supervisor at any time, which meant that Eunuch Gao had paved the way for him in advance. There were many masters in the late stage of gang spirit realm in the headquarters of Dark Thunder Guards, but the number of eunuchs was limited. Therefore, it was not enough to be promoted to eunuchs only if one had the ability, qualifications, and connections. Lung Shiqi had to sigh again. In fact, there was no fairness in the world. Come here. Eunuch Gao called, and a man walked quickly to him. Lung Shiqi glanced at him, and found it was an acquaintance, Wu Diao. They hadn't seen each other for a while. Wu Diao had a mustache on his lips, which made him look older and more confident than before. After the elite meeting, Wu Diao came to the imperial capital with Eunuch Gao. It seemed that he had been doing well with Eunuch Gao. Eunuch Gao said briefly, "Take him to the post." Wu Diao bowed and said, "Yes, master." After coming out of Eunuch Gao, Wu Diao immediately changed his expression. He pulled Lung Shiqi to him and said with a shifty look, "Brother Xingji, why are you so late? You're also an envoy inspector, right? Do you know how much profit an envoy inspector can make?" Lung Shiqi secretly smiled. No wonder Wu Diao's face was ruddy. It turned out that he had gained a lot of benefits. Lung Shiqi cupped his hands and said, "I have many trivial matters to attend to. I have no choice but to do so. I will need Brother Wu's help in the future." "Ha ha ha, you flatter me." Wu Diao's smile deepened. Brother Xingji is the leader of the elite association. His future achievements are immeasurable. Moreover, this matter hasn't been publicized yet. Otherwise, Brother Xingji would definitely be the center of attention. Let's go. I'll take you through the procedures first. Along the way, Wu Diao enthusiastically introduced Lung Shiqi to the situation in Dark Thunder manner. He familiarly led Lung Shiqi through the process. Soon he received the inspector's token and clothes, as well as the necessary resources. Then they turned left and right, and came to a courtyard with 29 written on the door. Wu Diao sighed and said, "Brother Xingji, this courtyard is the War Thunder Guard's 29 guards. Now, only here is a vacancy for an envoy inspector. It must be said that your luck is not very good this time. The 29 guards suffered heavy losses in the mission not long ago. Of the original dozen people, only 5 returned. Dark Thunder Manor has always been short of manpower. I'm afraid there will be no manpower for you recently. But Brother Xingji, you don't have to worry. If you need, you can come to the 12 guards at any time to find me. I will definitely be at your beck and call." 29 guards that suffered heavy losses fell into the hands of Lung Shiqi. He was definitely not happy. And it seemed that the mission carried out by the War Thunder Guard was also very dangerous. There were not many people available in his hands. He couldn't be asked to fight alone, right? It was not impossible to ask Wu Diao for help, but then he would owe him a favor again. Brother Wu is generous. If I really encounter difficulties, I won't be polite. Lung Shiqi still responded. Wu Diao laughed and said, "Haha, Brother Xingji, you don't have to be polite. You go in and rest first. I'll come back in the evening to welcome Brother Xingji." "Then it's better to be polite." "Okay, I'll come find you then. I'll take my leave first." After saying goodbye to Wu Diao, Leng Shiqi stepped into the 29 guards' courtyard. The courtyard was not small. There were dozens of houses neatly arranged and a martial arts practice field. At this time, there were 5 figures sitting in the martial arts practice field. Looking from afar, it was a bit bleak. Leng Shiqi did not hide his footsteps as he walked over. As soon as he got close, the smell of wine floated into his nose. The 5 people also quickly noticed the footsteps behind them, but only 2 of them turned their heads. One of them had a pale face and an ordinary appearance. He looked to be in his 30s or 40s. The other person was strong and had a fierce expression. A pair of bell-sized eyes looked a bit scary. When they saw Leng Shiqi wearing a purple cloak, they guessed his identity. The 2 of them bowed at the same time. Subordinate He Fei Chen greets Envoy Inspector. Subordinate Lu Zhao greets Envoy Inspector. He Fei Chen was the pale-faced man and Lu Zhao was the strong man. Both of them were at the late stage of the spirit aperture realm. No need to be so polite. I am Lu Xingji, the newly appointed Envoy Inspector of the 29 guards. What is the situation here? Leng Shiqi's expression was cold and his tone was cold. Although Wu Diao said that the 29 guards suffered a heavy blow and lacked manpower. But other than the original dozen or so Battle Thunder guards, there should be some intelligence personnel and servants. No matter what, it shouldn't be so bleak, right? He Fei Chen and Lu Zhao did not answer. Instead, they glanced at the 3 people who still had their backs to them, especially the one with white hair. These 3 clearly knew that the new envoy inspector was coming, but they still turned a blind eye. This was already a crime of disrespect. But the white-haired man still did not turn around. Instead, he said with an old and sad voice, "The 29 guards are about to scatter. If Lord Lu wants to show off his power, wait until after the reorganization." Gudu. The 2 people next to the old man picked up the wine jug and drank by themselves. They were too lazy to even say a word. Leng Shiqi frowned. If he only had 2 normal people under him, then what was the difference between him and a general without an army? Looking at the 3 people with their backs to him, his eyes flashed with hostility. Immediately, Leng Shiqi reached out with one hand. Spirit chi surged and hundreds of cold underworld silk intertwined with each other and attacked the hearts of the 3 people. Leng Shiqi's sudden attack shocked everyone. He Fei Chen and Lu Zhao quickly dodged and exclaimed at the same time, "Spirit Aperture Realm 6th Layer? Cold Underworld Scripture." Chapter 514. Leng Shiqi revealed his cultivation as soon as he made a move. When Lu Zhao saw that he was only at the 6th layer of the Spirit Aperture Realm, his expression became complicated. He Fei Chen recognized that Leng Shiqi was using the Cold Underworld Treasure Technique. The Cold Underworld Treasure Technique was created by eunuch Gao and was only passed down to his adopted sons. From this, it could be seen that Leng Shiqi's identity was not ordinary. The 3 people who were attacked by Leng Shiqi were also shocked, but their reactions were not slow. The 2 people who were drinking turned around and broke the wine jug. However, the wine did not spill out, but rather formed ripples that shattered a lot of the cold underworld silk. Leng Shiqi also saw that the 2 people's clothes were messy and sloppy, but they looked very similar, like a pair of twins. The old man formed a seal and a fierce flaming tiger appeared, tearing apart the remaining cold underworld silk. Leng Shiqi did not use his full power with the cold underworld 1,000 silk hands. He only wanted to test them. The twins were both at the 6th layer of the Spirit Aperture Realm, and the old man was not simple. He was actually at the peak of the Spirit Aperture Realm. And he was also a spirit mage at the peak of the Spirit Aperture Realm. He also found that these people were not weak, but a small team with such battle strength had lost half of its members. What kind of terrifying mission did they go on? The old man also discovered Leng Shiqi's cultivation. He did not hesitate to mock him. Since when can someone at the middle stage of the Spirit Aperture Realm be an envoy inspector? It seems like the 29th guard is really going to decline. Old Huang, he cultivates the cold underworld treasure technique. He Fei Chen whispered to him. However, the mockery in Elder Huang's eyes became even stronger. So it's because of connections. People like you don't stay in the palace, but insist on joining the Dark Thunder Guard. One look and I can tell that you are an ambitious person. He Fei Chen kept trying to signal Elder Huang with his eyes, but Elder Huang completely ignored him. Actually, Old Huang knew that he had offended the new envoy inspector, but he did not care because his heart was already dead. He just wanted to retire and end his life. Naturally, he had nothing to worry about. The twins looked at each other, cupped their hands at Leng Shiqi, and continued to drink. Lu Zhao also looked at Leng Shiqi with disdain. Obviously, he looked down on Leng Shiqi. He Fei Chen looked left and right. How could he make the new inspector step down in this situation? He was still young and talented. He didn't want to ruin his future. Just as he was about to smooth things over, Leng Shiqi said something that shocked everyone. A bunch of trash. His tone was very calm, as if he was narrating a very ordinary matter, but it was this tone that immediately made the few people's hearts burn with rage. The twin brothers coldly glared at him. Lu Zhao's expression was ferocious, He Fei Chen's expression sank, and even Elder Huang let out a disdainful sound. What? Did I say something wrong? Leng Shiqi raised his eyebrows. What qualifications do a few pieces of trash who only know how to complain about themselves have to stay in the Dark Thunder Guards? I never raise trash. Today, I will clean up the sect and reorganize the 29 guards. Before he finished speaking, his hands quickly formed seals. Waves of crimson cold air surged out. The cold air rose into the air and surrounded the surroundings, freezing the space. In the blink of an eye, the martial arts practice field turned into a crimson world of ice. This move immediately caused a few people to be shocked. This new envoy inspector was also a spirit caster? But so what if he was a spirit caster in the middle stage of the spirit aperture realm? It wasn't like they hadn't killed one before. What surprised them the most was the difference in Leng Shiqi's body. Killing intent. He was being serious. Leng Shiqi's hand gripped the air, and a 5th-level spirit spear appeared in his hand. As his spirit energy revolved, golden scales appeared on the spear's body and traces of sharp metal energy seeped out. Soon after, the tip of the spear flicked. Everyone seemed to hear the sound of surging waves. The golden spear was like a tsunami as it pierced towards Elder Huang. This spear was a fusion of the continuous blue wave spear and the golden scale cross spear that Wu Diao had given him. It was the golden wave spear. Metal begets water. Leng Shiqi used a metal elemental technique to activate this technique. Its power was even stronger than normal 6th-level techniques. Facing this spear, Elder Huang was moved. In his eyes, what he saw was not just a spear, but an endless wave of spear. A crimson crystal shone on Elder Huang's forehead. A small formation appeared under his feet. Waves of flames rushed towards him, attempting to drown out the spear. However, he still underestimated Leng Shiqi's strength. The golden wave spear itself was extremely aggressive. In addition to Leng Shiqi's terrifying strength and powerful body, he ignored the sea of flames and went straight for Elder Huang's head. This time, Elder Huang truly felt the threat of death. He had experienced this feeling not long ago, but he never thought that he would experience it again so soon. 9 Palace Fire Formation. Elder Huang's spiritual power was pushed to the limit. His white hair fluttered wildly. 9 huge pillars of fire suddenly rose from his body. The pillars of fire melted a lot of the crimson ice crystals as soon as they appeared. Under Elder Huang's control, the pillars of fire kept changing their paths in a strange manner, forming a formation. Leng Shiqi was deep in the 9 Palace Fire Formation. He was not afraid. With a shake of his spear shadows swept in all directions. Like a golden wave, they instantly shattered 4 pillars of fire. Elder Huang was shocked. This was the first time that his 9 Palace Fire Formation had been broken by someone so powerful. However, at this moment, the others finally made their move. One of the twins used a saber, while the other used a sword. The saber user suddenly swung his saber towards the ground. Strangely, a huge saber light broke out from the ground under Leng Shiqi's feet. The swordsman's sword moved the void. When he looked up, he saw that a sword-shaped shadow of 100 feet long had fallen from the sky. Heaven and earth, saber and sword dual mastery. Lu Zhao was much more simple and violent. He threw out a punch. It was as if there was a ferocious roar coming from his body. As for He Fei Chen, after hesitating for 2 breaths, he still chose to make a move. In his opinion, Leng Shiqi might be testing them. Even if he guessed wrong, since the others had already made their move, it would be unreasonable for him to not make a move. Moreover, Lung Shiqi's attitude was truly infuriating. He Fei Chen flicked his finger. Streaks of cyan energy shot towards Lung Shiqi, like a meteor shower. Facing the combined attacks of multiple mid- and late-stage Spirit Aperture Realm experts, Lung Shiqi's battle intent became even more intense. He used his palm as a saber. His entire body was filled with a shocking amount of demonic energy. A sinister and terrifying pitch-black saber light slashed down, easily cutting through the saber light on the ground. He used his finger as a sword. A ferocious blood-colored sword light tore through the sky, tearing apart the sword-shaped shadow. He hurriedly turned around. Several ancient runes lit up on his right arm. He didn't use any other spiritual techniques. He simply threw out a punch and sent Lu Zhao flying. Finally, he moved his 10 fingers. 10 blood-colored lightning bolts as thick as an arm shot out, destroying all of He Fei Chen's finger energy. The entire martial arts stage suddenly fell into a deathly silence. Chapter 5:15. The training field of the 29 guards was still covered by a layer of crimson ice crystals. Lung Shiqi looked at the other 5 coldly with his hands behind his back. The 5 people fell into a temporary state of absent-mindedness. From Lung Shiqi's sudden attack until now, everything had happened in the time it took for a spark to fly off a piece of flint. In just a few blinks of an eye, their impression of Lung Shiqi had undergone a complete change. With a cultivation at the 6th level of the Spirit Aperture Realm, he easily suppressed all 5 of them. He even used spirit arts, spear arts, blade arts, sword arts, fist arts, and finger arts, which were completely different. It must be known that a spirit cultivator's time was very precious, and their energy was even more limited. It was good enough for a spirit cultivator to master 1 or 2 techniques in his life. Who could master so many techniques at the same time? Was he even human? However, what frightened them the most was Lung Shiqi's attitude. That kind of indifference, as if everything was natural, as if he just casually attacked and didn't use his full strength at all. In fact, it was indeed so. If Lung Shiqi activated the wild evil demon blood beast body, used the demon arrival saber and blood shadow sword, these people would be seriously injured even if they didn't die. They looked at each other and saw the indescribable horror in each other's eyes. Was this person really at the 6th level of the Spirit Aperture Realm? Was he a Spirit Gang Realm Master in disguise? Lung Shiqi stood there and waited for a few breaths, but those people were still looking at each other. His killing intent rose in his heart, and a golden flame flashed in his palm. It was that trace of fire that instantly made Elder Huang, who cultivated a fire-type cultivation method, turn pale with fright. He immediately knelt on one knee and shouted, "Subordinate Huang Yuanli greets Lord Inspector." He cultivated the fire attribute technique for decades, and was very sensitive to flames. Just now, he suddenly felt a terrible flame that made his soul tremble. If Lung Shiqi really attacked, he would definitely die without a burial place. Although his heart was dead, it didn't mean that he really wanted to die. In the face of life, he chose to surrender. Previously, there was Lung Shiqi's military might. Now, even the respected Elder Huang had knelt down. The others also knelt down one after another and said in unison, "Your humble subordinates He Fei Chen, Lu Zhao, Lu Xia, and Lu Dong, pay respect to Lord Inspector." Lung Shiqi dispersed the crimson ice crystals, and sunlight once again bathed everyone, making them feel a little more at ease. "Get up, He Fei Chen, follow me." After saying that, he turned around and walked towards the largest room in the courtyard. It seemed to be a meeting place. He Fei Chen calmed himself down and rejoiced inwardly. He signaled the others with his eyes and followed Lung Shiqi. When their figures disappeared from the room, Elder Huang looked dejected. He sighed deeply and said, The younger generation will surpass us in time. This person will definitely not be an ordinary person in the future, but this kind of person will often attract trouble. Anyway, this old man is going to leave the Dark Thunder Guards. You guys take care of yourselves." Lu Zhao was defeated by Lung Shiqi. He rubbed his shoulder and said, "Hey, he sent me flying with one punch. I like it." Lu Xia and Lu Dong turned around and left, leaving only one sentence, "Go back and take care of it." Obviously, These two also thought that it was worthwhile to follow Leng Shiqi. Elder Huang shook his head slightly and left alone. His back seemed more depressed. In the room, Leng Shiqi sat on a chair, and He Feichen stood with his hands behind his back. Tell me, what's the matter with your mission? Leng Shiqi was also very curious about what mission they had carried out. Not only did so many people die, but also their willpower was depressed. Was the blow really so big? He Feichen smiled bitterly and replied, "It's a long story. More than a month ago, the Dark Thunder Guards found that there was some unrest in Shantai Commandery. There appeared a force that was specially looking for trouble with the Imperial Court, called the Dark Thunder Alliance. According to the intelligence of the Dark Thunder Guards, there was only one master of Gang Spirit Realm, and the others were nothing to be afraid of. Originally, the Dark Thunder Guards of Shantai Commandery could have solved it by themselves, but at that time, Shantai Commandery was too busy to spare any manpower, so we 29 guards were sent to Shantai Commandery to wipe out this force. The former inspector was at the middle stage of Gang Spirit Realm, and with us, it should have been an easy task. But no one expected that after we negotiated with the Dark Thunder Guards of Shantai Commandery, they gave us false information, which led us to fall into a trap. They were well prepared and invited several masters of Gang Spirit Realm. Finally, we suffered a heavy loss. The 5 of us risked our lives to escape, and I haven't recovered from my injury yet." After listening to He Feichen's words, Leng Shiqi was a little surprised. "You mean the Dark Thunder Guards of Shantai Commandery betrayed us?" The Dark Thunder Guards were originally a force that supervised others, but there was a traitor among them. It would be a joke if it was spread out. Alas! He Feichen's face was bitter. A senior inspector of Shantai Commandery was secretly bribed. After this, that person took a group of elites of the Dark Thunder Guards to join the Thunder Extermination Alliance. What annoys me is that this group of people know too much about Shantai Commandery and the style of the Dark Thunder Guards, so they haven't been found yet. The Thunder Extermination Alliance is arrogant, but they do have some ability. Leng Shiqi was secretly surprised, and at the same time he somewhat understood Mr. Huang and the others. Being betrayed by one's own people, and leading to the death of more than half of them was indeed a big blow. Of course he couldn't say this out loud, so he changed the topic. What about the others of the 29 guards? Alas, we heard that the 29 guards were going to be reorganized, so Mr. Huang sent them away, and wanted to have a few days of peace. Unexpectedly, you came again, Your Excellency. He Feichen was actually quite surprised. Leng Shiqi's eyes narrowed slightly. He didn't know if this was intentional or accidental by Eunuch Gao. No matter what he had to do next was to make the 29 guards work normally. In the future, you will take care of the 29 guards. You will call back the original people first, and then apply for some more Thunder Guards to come in. His words caused He Feichen's entire body to tremble. From now on he would be the second in command of the 29 guards. But He Feichen still looked embarrassed. Your Excellency may not know, but the War Thunder Guards have always been in short supply. In a short time, I'm afraid. Before he spoke, Leng Shiqi directly threw a mustard seed bag. He subconsciously opened it, and saw that it was densely packed with spirit stones and various resources. His saliva was about to flow out. Money can make ghosts turn millstones. These resources are up to you. At least add a few more people. Don't worry, Your Excellency, I can do it well at this time. After sending He Feichen away, Leng Shiqi turned over some documents on the table, and found that these were the daily duties of the War Thunder Guards. They also recorded the tasks and personnel changes that the 29 guards had completed, and the basic information of each War Thunder Guard. He also read it carefully. Until the evening, Wu Diao came to find him. Chapter 516. At night, Leng Shiqi and Leng Shiqi toasted each other, and became more familiar with each other. Leng Shiqi also learned some common knowledge about the imperial capital from Wu Diao, so that he wouldn't accidentally touch on any taboos. However, Leng Shiqi didn't forget that he had cheated Wu Diao, and almost lost his underwear. With Wu Diao's personality, how could he forget it completely? Now Wu Diao was so enthusiastic not only because Leng Shiqi had outstanding potential. After all, there were many geniuses with potential, But how many of them could survive until the end? He had probably heard something from eunuch Gao's words. Leng Shiqi took advantage of the atmosphere to ask him about cultivation methods. Brother Wu, I'm new here and not familiar with the imperial capital. May I ask where I can buy level 5 cultivation methods? Level 5 cultivation methods? Surprise flashed through Wu Diao's eyes. With Leng Shiqi's strength, did he still need level 5 cultivation methods? Moreover, Wu Diao had personally seen Zhuge Puha give several level 5 cultivation methods to Leng Shiqi in order to fight for 4th place in the elite meeting. In addition, Leng Shiqi had cheated Mu Qinglin and the others of their resources, so he probably had a lot of level 5 cultivation methods on him. Then why did he need cultivation methods? However, Wu Diao didn't ask too much. He thought for a moment and said, actually, the larger spirit cultivation shops in the inner city all have level 5 cultivation methods. However, those people won't sell them easily. Leng Shiqi nodded inwardly. He had encountered this situation when he first came to the inner city. However, with Brother Xingji's current status, you can buy as much as you want. Maybe those shops won't take a single cent. Wu Diao's lips curled into a proud smile. Oh, what do you mean? The Dark Thunder Guard's inspector had such a high status? Wu Diao laughed sinisterly. Brother Xingji, have you forgotten what we Dark Thunder Guards do? What those businessmen are most afraid of isn't the patrol guards, but us Dark Thunder Guards. If they dare to provoke us, we can just find an excuse to search the area and ban them for a period of time. That will be enough to make them suffer. Looking at Wu Diao's smug look, Leng Shiqi knew that he had done something similar before. Leng Shiqi had already thought of several ways to make money from this route alone. This envoy inspector position was really not bad. Since that was the case, Leng Shiqi planned to visit a few shops later. He had nearly 300,000 spirit stones on him, so it was not a problem for him to buy a few cultivation methods. Perhaps he would be able to gather all the spiritual cavities he needed to open. However, at this moment, Wu Diao said, Brother Xingji, I suggest that unless you have nowhere else to go, don't go to the shop to buy cultivation techniques. Why is that? Leng Shiqi was puzzled. Wu Diao drank a mouthful of wine. Brother Xingji, think about it. How good can a cultivation technique be if the shop is selling it? It's basically the most ordinary kind of cultivation technique. There's basically no research value in it. Originally, Wu Diao had thought that Leng Shiqi wanted to study those cultivation methods to comprehend them by analogy. Although Wu Diao's guess was wrong, he did remind Leng Shiqi. Seeing that Wu Diao had something to say, Leng Shiqi raised his wine cup and said with a smile, It seems that Brother Wu has a plan. Why don't you give me some advice? It's not really advice. Wu Diao waved his hand and said, Actually, there are 4 large shops in the inner city. Every 3 months, they will take turns to hold an auction. This can be said to be the highest standard auction in the Thunderflame dynasty. Not to mention top-quality rank 5 cultivation techniques. Even rank 6 and 7 cultivation techniques will appear. The Celestial Treasure Firm's auction will be held in a few days. Brother Xingji, why don't you go and try your luck? Hearing the words auction, Leng Shiqi did not think about the cultivation techniques first. Instead, he was somewhat conflicted about the auction. The word auction often appeared in the literature of his previous world. Usually, as long as one participated in an auction, there would be strange treasures. Others would not be able to see it, only the main character would be able to. There would definitely be some conflict or conspiracy. Moreover, it would inexplicably involve the main character. In the end, all the benefits would fall into the hands of the main character. Leng Shiqi had seen a lot of this kind of melodramatic plot. He did not think that just because he had the system, he was destined to be the one. This world was too big. There were many people who could obtain all kinds of miraculous opportunities. Therefore, when he heard about the auction, he felt like he was facing a scourge. Wu Diao saw that Leng Shiqi was in a daze and seemed to be hesitating. He shouted to wake Leng Shiqi up. I say, Brother Xingji, you're still hesitating? Do you know that you're in luck? A few days ago, I helped the Celestial Treasure Firm with something. I was able to get you an invitation. You have to know that the auction invitations can fetch a sky-high price. Moreover, Those who can participate in the auction are either rich or respectable. They all have extraordinary statuses. Brother Singji, you're new to the imperial capital. It's good for you to get to know them. He earnestly persuaded. Lung Shiqi thought about it and agreed. This was indeed a good opportunity. He was only going to see if there were any suitable 5th-level cultivation techniques. He did not care about anything else. There should not be any accidents. He nodded in agreement. Wu Diao immediately smiled. In this way, Lung Shiqi could be considered to have owed him a considerable favor. After the two drank to their heart's content, Lung Shiqi was not in a hurry to go back. Instead, he used his spiritual energy to force out all the alcohol, and turned to walk to the various spirit cultivation shops. The auction was a good choice, but it did not mean that he would give up on the cultivation techniques in the shops. He directly put on his envoy inspector uniform, and swaggered into a rather large shop. It was already late at night, but there were still many people inside. It was clear that business was booming. As soon as he entered, a sharp-eyed manservant immediately ran over and bowed. "Sir, what are your orders?" Before Lung Shiqi could speak, a person who looked like a manager quickly walked over. He waved his hand and said, "I will receive this esteemed guest. Go and prepare a private room." "Sir, my surname is Zhong. May I ask what your surname is?" "Lu." "So it's Sir Lu. Sir, please follow me." Manager Zhong led Lung Shiqi into a private room. He was submissive the entire time. Lung Shiqi thought that these people were really afraid of the Dark Thunder Guards. It seemed that he might be able to gain something tonight. After the two sat down, Manager Zhong asked, "Sir Lu, what do you need?" "As long as the shop has something, it will be provided. The price will definitely be the lowest." Lung Shiqi only said 4 words, 5th-level cultivation techniques. "Sir Lu, please wait a moment." As he spoke, he took out a palm-sized mirror and wrote a few words on it with his finger. He then said, "Sir Lu, please have some tea." As the saying goes, one does not hit a smiling person. Lung Shiqi also took a symbolic sip. Before he put down the teacup, a manservant held a plate in front of him. There were 5 jade slips placed on it. These are the 5th-level cultivation techniques collected by the shop. "Sir Lu, please take a look." Chapter 517. So fast, Lung Shiqi thought to himself, and then checked the jade slips one by one. Not long after, he frowned and put down the jade slips. Steward Zhong smiled and asked, "What is Lord Lu's problem?" The jade slips only briefly described the characteristics of the cultivation method, but did not say which spiritual cavities can be opened. "This is slightly inappropriate." Lung Shiqi leaned back and said indifferently. Steward Zhong's smile froze, then he immediately smiled and said, "So that's how it is, this one was negligent." Saying this, he took out the mirror again and wrote a sentence. In less than 10 breaths of time, the servant came back with a new plate. "Lord Lu, please take a look again." Steward Zhong gestured with his hand. Lung Shiqi finally felt the benefits of his identity. This was a far cry from the treatment he received when he first bought a cultivation technique. He looked through the 5 cultivation methods again, and found that only 2 of them were useful to him. But the number of spiritual cavities that could be opened was only 7 or 8. Just as Wu Diao said, the cultivation methods that could be sold in the shop were very ordinary. But it was better than nothing. He picked up one of the jade slips and asked, "How many spiritual stones is this golden cauldron art?" "Lord Lu is too polite about the price. This shop can give this cultivation method to Lord. Just treat it as making friends." Steward Zhong had no intention of taking the money. Lung Shiqi instantly saw through Steward Zhong's thoughts. He was just unfamiliar with him, and wanted to use this as a pretext to get closer to him. For Lung Shiqi, this could be considered as saving some spiritual stones, but it would also be related to the shop. He hesitated for a moment, but still reached out to take it. From Wu Diao's words, he could see that this was not just his case. Wu Diao must have also gained a lot from these shops. Lung Shiqi actually did not want to get too involved with these shops, but in this environment, everyone else was doing the same, and only he was aloof. He would be ostracized by others. In any case, it could help him save a lot of spiritual stones, so why not? Steward Zhong's smile deepened when he saw Lung Shiqi's cultivation technique. He was about to say something when Leng Shiqi beat him to it. I accept Steward Zhong's kind intentions, and will remember them. I'll take my leave first. After saying that, he left the place without hesitation. Manager Zhong immediately sent people to inquire about the Leng Shiqi. After Leng Shiqi had tasted the benefits, he went out and specifically chose those large-scale shops. These kinds of shops were generally not closed. Using his identity as an envoy inspector, he really managed to obtain 4 Tier 5 cultivation techniques. Including the one on his body, there were a total of 5. Although there wasn't anything profound about these cultivation methods, they were superior in quantity. Adding them all together, they could help him open up quite a few new spiritual cavities. If he were to open them all, he would have a total of 310 spiritual cavities. If his luck was good, he would be able to buy 1 or 2 suitable cultivation methods from the auction, and he would be able to gather enough spiritual cavities. With a satisfied mood, Leng Shiqi returned to the courtyard of the 29 guards. However, before he entered the courtyard, he bumped into He Feichen, whose face was full of anxiety. What's wrong? Why are you so flustered? Leng Shiqi vaguely felt that trouble had come. Seeing Leng Shiqi return, He Feichen's expression changed. He pulled Leng Shiqi aside and whispered, "My lord, Wei Xiangming is here." Leng Shiqi had never heard of this person before, so he asked, "Who is Wei Xiangming?" "He is the envoy inspector of the 28 guards. His cultivation is at the middle stage of Gang Spirit Realm," He Feichen said in a deep voice. "The 28 guards is right next to us. We have a grudge against each other because of a mission. We have never been on good terms." Hearing this, Leng Shiqi knew that trouble had come, but he still didn't know what Wei Xiangming was here for. He asked He Feichen, "What's going on?" "My lord, didn't you ask me to apply for some manpower?" "Unexpectedly, I happened to meet Wei Xiangming there. After inquiring, I learned that Wei Xiangming wanted to transfer the 5 of us to the 28 guards when he heard that the 29 guards were going to be reorganized. My lord, you know that we don't see eye to eye with him. If we were really transferred to the 28 guards, we would definitely suffer a lot. Maybe we would even die while carrying out extremely dangerous missions. Of course I didn't want to, so I explained my intention. Wei Xiangming also knew that my lord had come to take office. Therefore, it was impossible for the 29 guards to be reorganized, so he came directly without caring about his face, and has been waiting for my lord to come back. I found an excuse to sneak out. I just wanted my lord to lie low for a while, and not have a direct confrontation with Wei Xiangming." Leng Shiqi chuckled. "You mean to let me be a coward?" He Feichen immediately shook his head. "I don't dare to have such an idea, but Wei Xiangming—" "Enough," Leng Shiqi cut him off. "Take me to see this Wei Xiangming." "This." He Feichen hesitated, but when he saw Leng Shiqi's indifferent expression, he obediently shut his mouth. As a subordinate, he had already done what he should do. Even if he lost face in the end, he couldn't be blamed. Wei Xiangming was a very thin middle-aged man. He looked a little weak, but there were 2 terrifying scars on his face that gave people a very scary feeling. At this time, Wei Xiangming was sitting in Leng Shiqi's seat in a dignified manner. He was playing with the teacup in his hand, looking a little bored. "Lord Wei, Lord Lu is new here. He might have been attracted by the prosperity of the imperial capital. I don't think he'll come back tonight," Huang said politely. He had already planned to leave, but he was still a member of the 29 guards. Naturally, he didn't want to see anyone else fall into Wei Xiangming's hands. No rush, no rush. I have plenty of time. Even if I have to wait here for an entire night, it won't be a problem." Wei Xiangming chuckled without a trace of tyranny. However, those who were familiar with him knew that he was a ruthless person. The more indifferent he appeared, the stronger the anger in his heart. This envoy has just taken office, and an important guest has already come to visit. I'm sorry for being late. At this time, Leng Shiqi walked into the hall and said with a fake smile. Wei Xiangming glanced at Leng Shiqi and continued to play with the teacup in his hand. He said with disdain, "Since when can someone in the middle stage of the Spirit Aperture realm become an envoy inspector? The future of the Dark Lightning Guards is truly worrying." He Feichen interrupted. "Lord Lu was personally appointed by Manager Gao. Could it be that Lord Wei has doubts about Manager Gao's decision? Don't use Manager Gao to pressure me. In the past few years, he has placed quite a few people in the Dark Lightning Guards. This has already caused the dissatisfaction of the other 3 great managers. This Lu Xingji's cultivation isn't qualified at all. Being an envoy inspector is breaking the rules of the Dark Lightning Guards. I dare say this even in front of Manager Gao. Wei Xiangming's tone was very unyielding. Leng Shiqi's eyes moved slightly. He guessed that Wei Xiangming didn't come looking for trouble on the spur of the moment. Instead, there was someone pushing him from the shadows. Chapter 518. As the envoy inspector, how could Wei Xiangming be a reckless person? If he came to the door in such a domineering manner, it would cause a lot of gossip. However, he still did so without fear of eunuch Gao, which meant that he was instructed by someone. The person who instigated it was very likely to be one of the other 3 chiefs. Leng Shiqi was also a little helpless. He had only been here for 1 day, but he was already involved in the open and secret struggle between the 4 directors. As expected, the headquarters of Dark Thunder Guards would not be so peaceful. You guys go out first. Leng Shiqi turned to He Feichen, Mr. Huang, and others and said. They were also very clear that they were not qualified to participate in the following matters, so they left together. But when they walked to the door, Leng Shiqi said again, "Stay away." Stay away? He Feichen and others were all confused, but they still did as he said. In the hall, Leng Shiqi did not want to beat around the bush, so he simply said, "What do you want to do? Just say it." Wei Xiangming finally put down his teacup and crossed his legs. With a bit of arrogance, he said, He Feichen must have secretly told you that the 29th Guard Squad will be merged into my 28th Guard Squad, including you. Oh, you want to take off my clothes as the envoy inspector? You are quite arrogant. Leng Shiqi waved his hand in front of his nose, as if he really smelled something stinky. Wei Xiangming's expression froze. He had expected that Leng Shiqi would be furious and threaten to find eunuch Gao, and so on. But now Leng Shiqi's action was completely out of his expectation. He looked at Leng Shiqi again. He always felt that Leng Shiqi had an indescribable temperament, as if he was a little indifferent to everything, so he planned to test further. Naive. I'll be frank with you. If you had the cultivation of Gang's spirit realm, I wouldn't dare to bully you. You can only blame yourself for not living up to expectations. After all, this is a world where strength is respected. Wei Xiangming said with obvious disdain. Leng Shiqi should be angry now, right? However, what Wei Xiangming didn't expect was that Leng Shiqi calmly shook a finger. You're right about one thing. This is a world where strength is respected, but you're wrong about one thing. Really? What did I say wrong? Wei Xiangming smiled contemptuously. That is my strength. Leng Shiqi's voice was like a heavy hammer falling to the ground. At the same time, a red and black spirit sword appeared in his hand. With a shake of the blade, a dazzling blood-red sword light burst out. However, there was actually a shadow hidden within the sword radiance that was difficult to detect. Wei Xiangming did not expect Leng Shiqi to make a move. However, at this moment, he was secretly happy. Once Leng Shiqi made the first move, this matter would blow up and his mission would be completed. He snorted coldly and was still sitting in the chair. He took a step, and the ground immediately cracked. Threads of golden light intertwined like tentacles, and broke the sword radiance. In front of my soft metal spiritual gang, you'd better put away this sword technique. Wei Xiangming sneered, but he did not notice the shadow sword radiance hidden by Leng Shiqi. Just as he was speaking, the shadow, like a poisonous snake hidden in the dark, finally found an opportunity. It instantly turned into an afterimage, and stabbed in front of Wei Xiangming. This move was Leng Shiqi's Crimson Demon Double Shadow Swords, had been modified and integrated into the Bloody Killing 7 swords. It was both explosive and sneaky. Wei Xiangming's expression changed. He hurriedly flew back and shouted. A golden ripple washed the space and shattered the shadow sword radiance. He thought it was despicable, but before he could say anything, hundreds of triple sword chi had already shot out from all directions. Each sword chi contained 3 different breaths. In an instant, the sword chi destroyed the hall, and there were even countless sword marks on the ground. A huge steel saber appeared in Wei Xiangming's hand. There were 5 golden rings on the back of the saber. It was also a 6th-level spiritual weapon. As a middle-stage gang spirit realm cultivator, he was forced to use his spiritual weapon by a middle-stage spirit aperture realm cultivator. This was simply an insult to him. The golden saber was held horizontally, and the horrible saber intent rose to the sky. Dazzling golden spiritual gang surged and destroyed the triple sword chi wherever it went. Wei Xiangming gently stroked the blade with his left hand. The blade suddenly trembled slightly, and 3 golden blade shadows appeared behind him. He said with a gloomy face, "Lu Xingji, you dare to sneak attack me. Today, I'll take you and send you to the punishment hall. Even Supervisor Gao won't be able to say anything." Their fight was not small, and it was soon discovered by He Feichen and the other 4. At this moment, they finally knew why Leng Shiqi asked them to go away. It turned out that he had already planned to do it. But the 5 people all frowned. Just now, Leng Shiqi asked them to go away in advance, which meant that it was very likely that Leng Shiqi made the first move. They had personally experienced the strength of Leng Shiqi. He was definitely comparable to a spirit cultivator who had just entered the gang spirit realm. But Wei Xiangming was at the middle stage of the gang spirit realm. Moreover, Wei Xiangming was a veteran envoy inspector. He enjoyed all kinds of high-level resources, and his fighting strength was very high among those of the same level. Therefore, they believed that Leng Shiqi was no match for Wei Xiangming. And this matter was no longer about who was strong or weak. If Leng Shiqi really made the first move, Wei Xiangming could accuse him of murdering his colleagues. They all sighed that Leng Shiqi was still too young and impulsive. In the battle, Leng Shiqi narrowed his eyes. He could feel the terrible power in the 3 golden saber shadows, but he was not afraid at all. Instead, boundless fighting spirit surged in his heart. A blood-colored mark in the shape of a magatama appeared on his forehead, and the ghost blood tattoo emerged. His cultivation and spiritual power soared all the way to the late stage of the spirit aperture realm. And his spiritual power was also pushed to the extreme by him. A colorful light flashed in his eyes, and in Wei Xiangming's eyes, Leng Shiqi instantly turned into 5 gods. As if he could take his life with just one look. 5 gods spirit assimilation skill. Leng Shiqi, who had condensed his spirit, even didn't know the limit of his spiritual power. The 5 gods spirit assimilation skill could make Wei Xiangming, an expert at the middle stage of the gang spirit realm, fall for it. But unfortunately, the gang spirit realm could steal a trace of the power of heaven and earth. And its resistance to illusion was very strong. He woke up in the blink of an eye. This amount of time was more than enough. Boom. The ground around Leng Shiqi was pressed down by an invisible spiritual pressure, and Leng Shiqi's skin turned into gray scales. A set of black armor covered his body, and there was even a strange long tail behind him. There were blood-colored incantations flashing all over his body, which looked very strange. However, Leng Shiqi didn't expose his other 2 arms. This was the wild demon blood beast body. Chapter 519. An aura that seemed to come from ancient demonic beasts spread out, intimidating all living things. Even He Feichen's group of 5 who were far away from the battle felt a chill run down their spines. What kind of aura is this? It actually gives me the urge to run away. He Feichen's face was filled with panic. Not only him, but the others also had the same thought. Only old Huang was the calmest. He said in a deep voice, "Not good, they are serious. Go and find someone." Everyone came to their senses. He Feichen said, "I'll go and ask the Imperial Eunuch Envoy. Old Huang, I'll have to trouble you to go and see if Steward Gao is here. You guys go and find the Imperial Eunuch Envoy that you have a good relationship with." Let's go. Let's go. The 5 of them knew that with their strength, they couldn't do anything. They could only run out and ask someone to stop them as fast as they could. Leng Shiqi completed his transformation. Wei Xiangming had just broken free from the 5 gods assimilation technique. He didn't even have time to see Leng Shiqi's appearance before Leng Shiqi directly appeared in front of him. Leng Shiqi sent out a punch. Boundless and pure demonic energy absorbed all the surrounding spiritual energy. A huge black demonic lotus quietly bloomed. In the blink of an eye, the demonic lotus changed into a swastika character and fell down. The demonic energy swastika character carried a powerful suppressive force, as if it could suppress heaven and earth. It was about to kill Wei Xiangming. Wei Xiangming's expression finally became serious. The golden light in his hand rotated. The 3 golden shadows behind him constantly trembled and let out an ear-piercing buzzing sound. Even the surrounding air trembled. Triple gold grand opening. 3 golden sword auras tore through the night sky. Violent spiritual highland wreaked havoc. The terrifying sword intent filled the air and cut the demonic energy swastika character into several pieces. However, the demonic energy swastika character didn't directly dissipate. Instead, it scattered into a cloud of demonic energy. There seemed to be a dragon flying in the sky inside. Immediately, a pair of huge demonic dragon claws tore through the demonic clouds and attacked Wei Xiangming. The power of this demonic dragon claw was mediocre. It was far inferior to the demonic chi swastika symbol, but a trace of surprise flashed across Wei Xiangming's eyes. Whether it was Leng Shiqi's Black Lotus demonic fist or his Sanjin Kaitai, they were both level 6 spiritual skills. After using this level of spiritual skill, the spiritual power in the body would enter a very short stagnation period. Everyone's foundation was different, so the length of this stagnation period was different. However, after Leng Shiqi used the Black Lotus Demon Fist, there was no hindrance, and then he used the Earth Fiend Demon Dragon Claw. Wei Xiangming didn't think that he could achieve such a smooth and natural connection between different spiritual techniques. Not only him, even those Gang Spirit Realm masters he was familiar with couldn't do it. For Lu Xingji to be chosen by Manager Gao, he must be quite capable. As the demonic dragon claw descended, Wei Xiangming only needed to lightly wave his saber to disperse it. However, at this moment, a long spear pierced straight towards him. It was a long spear covered with golden scales, but there was a sense of turbulence in the spear. The shadows of the spear were like endless waves. Wei Xiangming could no longer keep a straight face. Judging from his strength, this spear technique was very brilliant, but it was still within the range that he could resist. What shocked him was Leng Shiqi's storm-like offensive. From the initial probing of the hidden sword, the Tri-Extinction Sword Qi, the Black Lotus Demonic Fist, the Earth Fiend Demonic Shadow Claw, and now the Golden Wave Spear, this series of attacks had never stopped, completely disrupting Wei Xiangming's rhythm. At this point, if Wei Xiangming couldn't break the situation, he would always be suppressed by Leng Shiqi. He was at the middle stage of Gang Spirit Realm, but he was suppressed by a spirit cultivator, who was a whole realm lower than him. If this spread out, he would never have the face to see anyone in the Dark Thunder Guard. I just wanted to teach you a lesson, but now you can't blame me. It's your own fault that you got injured. Wei Xiangming said fiercely. His momentum suddenly became extremely irritable. His eyes flashed with golden light, and there was a faint sound of thunder and lightning. Crack! Wei Xiangming turned into a golden light and suddenly disappeared. So fast. Leng Shiqi was shocked. Even if he opened his supercilious eyes, he could barely catch a glimpse of Wei Xiangming's figure. At this time, it was not suitable to fight recklessly. He took back the golden billow spear, stepped on a deep pit with purple thunder and lightning under his feet, and directly appeared hundreds of feet away. Just as he left, the sharp saber aura broke out, leaving a huge saber mark on the ground. He also knows high-level body movement spiritual skills. Wei Xiangming appeared, and the move that he thought was foolproof was dodged. Looking at Leng Shiqi hundreds of feet away, he felt more and more difficult. Then let's see who's faster. Wei Xiangming turned into a golden lightning again, and Leng Shiqi also exerted the purple thunder steps to the limit, narrowly avoiding Wei Xiangming's attack every time. Although he was not hit, judging from the aftermath of the saber aura, even if he opened the wild evil demon blood beast body, he would be seriously injured. He couldn't afford it. How much spiritual power do you have? I'd like to see how long you can hold on. Wei Xiangming gradually became a little arrogant, and now he unconsciously had a killing intent in his heart. Leng Shiqi ignored him and continued to dodge. Every time he was about to be hit, he would use the body movement spiritual skill, swaying residual wind, in the Nirvana Remnant Wind Scroll. This was a body movement spiritual skill, which was like a residual wind and difficult to catch. He used the two body movement spiritual skills in succession without any disharmony. In the courtyard of the 29 guards, there were two figures moving around like lightning. Even the spirit pulse realm cultivators couldn't see their figures clearly. The more time passed, the more anxious Wei Xiangming became. His cultivation was higher by a large realm, but he still couldn't take down Leng Shiqi. He only felt his face burning. But at this time, Leng Shiqi's figure suddenly stopped, and Wei Xiangming immediately laughed. Haha, you don't have enough spiritual power, right? Watch me take you. Wei Xiangming kept waving the saber in his hand, and the golden rings on it made a ding-ding-dang-dang sound. The sound was like maggots that attacked Leng Shiqi's mind, and at the same time, the golden saber aura continued to explode, illuminating the night sky. Leng Shiqi stood upright, and his arms propped up to the side. With a thought, a pale yellow brilliance rose around his body, forming a semicircular shield. Child's play. Wei Xiangming sensed that the shield was extremely weak. It seemed that Leng Shiqi didn't have much spiritual power left. In the blink of an eye, the earth-shattering saber aura had already arrived in front of the shield. But what made Wei Xiangming turn pale with fright was that when his saber aura was less than a foot away from the shield, it was all bounced back by a strange invisible force. The saber aura that was bounced back collided with the saber aura behind it, and the sound of metal clashing could be heard everywhere. This was the spiritual skill that Wu Diao gave to Leng Shiqi, the Earth Pulse. Chapter 520. The biggest feature of the Earth Pulsation was its anti-gravity, which was an extremely rare ability that always had unexpected effects. In the small chaos cave of 5 elements, Wu Diao delayed the fall of the black sphere with the help of the Earth Pulsation, which showed how extraordinary it was. But in Leng Shiqi's view, Wu Diao had only practiced the Earth Pulsation to the small success realm at most, because he himself had reached the completion realm. The Earth Pulsation at the completion realm didn't need such a long preparation time at all. Leng Shiqi could use it at will, and it was more convenient for him to use it. He sharply reduced the range of the Earth Pulsation, so that the anti-gravity could be exerted to the maximum. Even Wei Xiangming's blade, which was unique to Gang's spirit realm, could be bounced back. Wei Xiangming would never have thought that his saber would be destroyed by his own saber. He had never seen such a magical spiritual skill, but he was not too surprised, because Leng Shiqi had surprised him too much tonight. And there was an inexplicable panic in his heart. From the beginning of the fight, he had never been at a disadvantage, but his opponent was only at the middle stage of Spirit Aperture Realm. In fact, unconsciously, Wei Xiangming had regarded Leng Shiqi as an opponent of the same level. What did this mean? The middle stage of Spirit Aperture Realm had the battle strength comparable to the middle stage of Gang's Spirit Realm, which meant that Leng Shiqi's talent could only be described as monstrous. Such a person also had the support of eunuch Gao. As long as he didn't die prematurely, he was bound to become a figure at the level of the 4 directors in the future. At that time, where should Wei Xiangming go? He finally began to regret coming to Leng Shiqi. Thinking of this, Wei Xiangming didn't intend to fight anymore. Anyway, it was Leng Shiqi who made the first move. Grasping this point could be regarded as completing his task. Just as he was about to stop, Leng Shiqi didn't intend to stop. He saw that Wei Xiangming was a little absent-minded. His figure suddenly dissipated like a dream bubble, and then endless colorful petals fell over the whole courtyard. A look of infatuation appeared in Wei Xiangming's eyes, but he quickly regained his senses and said angrily, "It's an illusion again." Then every petal shot out a strand of triseverance sword chi. Looking up, it was as if the sky had been dyed in 5 brilliant colors. Enough. You know that this level of sword chi can't hurt me. Stop. Don't waste it. Wei Xiangming was still trying to persuade Leng Shiqi, when he suddenly felt a dangerous aura. He had been in the Dark Thunder Guards for decades, so he was extremely sensitive to danger. His expression turned serious. It turned out that a golden sun had appeared in the sky of the 3 unique sword chi. No, not just one round. 9 Leng Shiqi extended their colorful wings and stood in the night sky, each holding the sun in their hands and looking down at the world. Wei Xiangming's pupils suddenly contracted. He wasn't afraid of the body illusion technique, nor was he shocked by the ability to fly. Instead, it was the scarlet gold flames on the blazing sun that caused his soul to throb. Those flames could take his life. What made him even crazier was that he saw the undisguised killing intent in Lung Shiqi's eyes. Lung Shiqi seemed to really dare to kill him, and could really kill him. Lung Shiqi was using the glorious sun poisonous yang palm, but he had replaced the poisonous flames with the crimson gold earth dragon flame. This was the glorious sun dragon flame palm. The horror of the heavenly flame was not something that ordinary people could withstand. In addition, Wei Xiangming cultivated the gold attribute cultivation method, which was even more restrained by the flame. So Wei Xiangming felt death approaching before he even made a move. Lung Shiqi didn't dare to be careless. He wouldn't give Wei Xiangming any chance. Under the suppression of the tri-extinction sword qi, the 9 Lung Shiqi waved their arms and the 9 golden suns burst out with terrifying power. 9 suns trampling the heavens. Wei Xiangming was terrified by the golden earth dragon flame, but he was also someone who had experienced countless battles. He still raised his golden saber and spat out a mouthful of essence blood. Blood qi rose from the golden saber. As it rotated, it seemed to draw upon the power of heaven and earth. The entire courtyard shook. A saber light that contained all of Wei Xiangming's spirit energy and blood cut through the night sky, as if it wanted to cut down the 9 suns together. Boom boom boom. Violent explosions occurred in the sky. The saber light and flames flew everywhere. The deafening sound could be heard clearly from 10 kilometers away. Many people came out of their houses to look at Dark Thunder Manor, not knowing what was going on inside. Strangely enough, Dark Thunder Manor's experts should have noticed the commotion caused by the two's exchange, yet none of them had come to check on the situation. Even He Feichen and the others who went out to invite people were nowhere to be seen. When all the sound and light dissipated, the courtyard of number 29 guards had been full of potholes. All the houses were destroyed and turned into charcoal. There was still a trace of fire burning everything in its way, including Wei Xiangming. At this time, Wei Xiangming was no longer as arrogant as before. His whole body was covered with terrible burns. His skin and flesh were overturned and bleeding, but the blood evaporated as soon as it came out. However, he was at the middle stage of Gang Spirit realm, and Gang Spirit helped him resist a lot of power. He was only seriously injured after taking the Bright Sun Dragon Flame Palm. There was only disbelief in his eyes. He couldn't believe that he was defeated by Lung Shiqi. What was even more unbelievable was that Lung Shiqi was closing in on him step by step, and the killing intent on his body was almost condensed into a substance. He wants to kill me. Does he really dare to kill me? Wei Xiangming roared in his heart, but his throat had been burned, so he couldn't speak. He could only send a voice transmission at once. Lu Xing. Lord Lu, let's talk nicely. I was only following someone's orders. I never thought of taking your life. Lung Shiqi turned a deaf ear to him. He used his palm as a blade, and an invisible blade of the primordial spirit directly tore through Wei Xiangming's spiritual defense. It instantly destroyed his spiritual space, and the expression in his eyes became extremely lifeless. Lung Shiqi walked forward and pressed Wei Xiangming's head. He said to the air, "Have you seen enough?" Swish. Suddenly, a few figures appeared in the originally empty place. He Feichen and the other 4 stood respectfully at the back, and 2 people stood at the front. They were Eunuch Gao and an extremely old man with a long beard. This is the first time I've seen such strength in Spirit Aperture Realm. No wonder you're the leader of the elite society. Very good. The long-bearded old man's words were full of praise. Eunuch Gao's lips curled into a rare smile. This is one of the 4 managers, Manager Hai. Why haven't you come over to greet him? Now Lung Shiqi finally understood. He Feichen and the others also understood. This was a trap set up by Eunuch Gao and Manager Hai. They wanted to see his true strength. Lung Shiqi tilted his head and smiled. Then he did something that no one expected. With a ka sound, he twisted off Wei Xiangming's head. Wei Xiangming was wrong. He wasn't wrong in finding trouble with Lung Shiqi, nor was he wrong in underestimating Lung Shiqi. He was wrong in not expecting Lung Shiqi to have the intention to kill him when he made his move. He Feichen and the other 4 immediately revealed expressions of fear. They weren't afraid that Leng Shiqi had the ability to kill Wei Xiangming, but that he killed Wei Xiangming in front of Manager Hai. This was equivalent to slapping his face in front of Manager Hai. They also noticed that this Sir Lu was usually quite amiable and gave off a feeling that he was easy to get along with. But in reality, he was more daring than anyone else. He made a move as soon as he said so, and he was crazier than anyone else. Leng Shiqi carried Wei Xiangming's head and walked in front of Manager Hai. Subordinate Lu Xingji greets Manager Hai. Chapter 521. Leng Shiqi's actions were undoubtedly a provocation to Manager Hai. He, Feichen, and the others were all trembling in fear. However, the admiration in Manager Hai's eyes grew even stronger. Young people are still hot-tempered. How enviable. You've picked up a treasure this time. I've lost this round. The 28 guards are yours. He said the last sentence to Eunuch Gao. Eunuch Gao straightened his sleeves and seemed to be in a good mood. Then I won't stand on ceremony. Lu Xingji, tomorrow you'll go and take over the 28 guards. You can arrange the personnel freely. Yes, sir. Leng Shiqi cupped his hands and said. Disperse. After Eunuch Gao said that, his body transformed into a gloomy, cold air and disappeared. Manager Hai gave Leng Shiqi a meaningful look, and also disappeared on ripples. Leng Shiqi fell directly to the ground, large beads of sweat dripping down his face. His whole body was in extreme pain. This was the price he had to pay for maintaining the blood mark of serenity, and the wild demon blood beast body for a long time. Feichen's eyes were sharp and he moved faster. He ran over immediately and took out a pill to recover spiritual energy. Lu Zhao, Lu Xia, and Lu Dong also immediately came over and asked about his well-being. A person in the middle stage of the spirit aperture realm killed a person in the middle stage of the gang spirit realm. Such a person's future achievements were simply limitless. Only Huang Lao still stood in place. He looked at the dilapidated courtyard and sighed slightly. He turned around and found someone to repair it. After dawn, Leng Shiqi woke up from cultivation. After this battle, his spiritual energy had steadily increased, and his body's strength had also increased by a notch. Killing a person in the middle stage of the gang spirit realm head-on did not make him conceited. Instead, he began to reflect on the details of the battle. He believed that there were two key points in his victory. First, he had the mentality of killing Wei Xiangming from the beginning. Wei Xiangming's disdain at the beginning, probing, attaching importance, and finally wanting to stop. In fact, he did not have much fighting spirit left. In terms of mentality, Leng Shiqi had already won. The second key point was the wild demon blood beast physique, and the crimson gold earth dragon flame. If not for his wild demon blood beast body, he wouldn't have had the ability to face Wei Xiangming head-on. For example, he had easily neutralized the first two moves. Only Leng Shiqi's wild demonic blood beast form gave him the ability to do so. The crimson gold earth dragon flame, as a variant of heaven and earth, was originally very powerful. Although Wei Xiangming did not cultivate a demonic art, fire suppressed metal, and was still restrained by the crimson gold earth dragon flame. This was the reason why Wei Xiangming was heavily injured by the dragon flame palm, giving Leng Shiqi the opportunity to kill him. Moreover, he had sensed that something was wrong when he was fighting Wei Xiangming. This was the headquarters of the Dark Thunder Guards. They were fighting so fiercely, but they didn't attract anyone's attention. How was this possible? Unless someone had given the order, no one was allowed to come here no matter what happened. The only people who could give such an order in the Dark Thunder Guards were the four chiefs. Thus, he guessed that this might be a trap targeted at him, to see what his strength and potential were like. Therefore, he was not afraid of exposing his trump cards. Other than the demon arrival battle saber and the ephemeral bloom, he had used all his skills to show his value. This was the only way for him to climb up the ranks. As long as he was in a high position, he would naturally have more resources, and his trump cards would only increase. However, this battle had also exposed his weakness, which was that his cultivation level and spiritual energy were not enough. The 6th level of the Spirit Aperture Realm was definitely an expert in the outside world, and he could even start his own sect. However, in the headquarters of the Dark Thunder Guards, it was nothing. It could only be considered average. His combat strength was strong, but he used high-level spiritual techniques. While they were powerful, they also consumed a lot of spiritual energy, so he could not fight for a long time. He muttered, after the guards settled down, "I will focus on increasing my cultivation level." As for increasing his cultivation level, he had a way. Whether it was the yin-yang spirit convergence array, or refining the soul stone, they could all allow him to increase his cultivation level quickly. Moreover, he would enter the dragon vein to cultivate soon. There were still 10 days, and he believed that it would be enough for his cultivation level to increase dramatically. After making up his mind, he called He Feichen over and asked, "Tell me about Chief Hai." After seeing Leng Shiqi, He Feichen lowered his attitude to the lowest. If the first time Leng Shiqi made a move, they were convinced, then last night's battle made them respect and fear Leng Shiqi, a person who was so strong that he even dared to kill the envoy inspector and offend the 4 chiefs. Wouldn't it be a piece of cake to deal with a War Thunder Guard like He Feichen? He immediately said respectfully, replying to Sir, that Chief Hai is not ordinary. He can be said to be the most senior person in the Dark Thunder Guards. In terms of seniority, even the great commander is far inferior. If this humble one remembers correctly, Manager Hai has held the position of one of the 4 managers for over 60 years. Oh, Leng Shiqi couldn't help but be surprised. He had been one of the 4 chiefs for more than 60 years, but he couldn't have been one of the 4 chiefs when he was born. Counting it this way, Chief Hai had been in the Dark Thunder Guards for at least 70 to 80 years. This kind of seniority was indeed incomparable. Chief Hai can be said to be highly respected in the Dark Thunder Guards. When the great commander isn't around for many years, the 4 chiefs are in charge of things, but Chief Hai definitely has the most power. For decades, the Dark Thunder Guards have never had any trouble. This kind of ability is admirable. He Feichen also had a look of worship. He suddenly looked at Leng Shiqi. "It's just that this humble servant has something to say, but I don't know if I should say it." "Just say it." Leng Shiqi casually waved his hand. He Feichen then said, "This humble servant believes that Sir's actions last night were too impulsive. Even though Chief Hai didn't say it, he is still dissatisfied with Sir in his heart. Whether or not Chief Hai is dissatisfied with me, I don't know and I don't care." Leng Shiqi was very open-minded. He asked He Feichen, "Do you know who gave me the position of envoy inspector?" He Feichen blurted out, "Chief Gao." "That's why I'm loyal to Chief Gao. Even if I offended Chief Hai by killing Wei Xiangming last night, Chief Gao will still be happy and will think more highly of me. Chief Hai can't give me anything in the first place, so offending him or not doesn't make much of a difference. On the contrary, I'll give Chief Gao face and he'll give me corresponding benefits. Do you understand?" Leng Shiqi said this and patted He Feichen's shoulder. He Feichen finally understood. At the same time, he couldn't help but admire Leng Shiqi. Sure enough, people in different positions had different ways of thinking. Leng Shiqi suddenly stood up and said, "Let's go." "To where?" He Feichen was stunned. "To incorporate the 28 guards." Chapter 522. The 28th Guard and the 29th Guard were neighbors. There was only a wall between the two. Last night, the battle between Leng Shiqi and Wei Xiangming was so fierce that the wall had already collapsed. Therefore, Leng Shiqi and He Feichen quickly arrived at the 28th Guard. The 28th Guard originally had 12 people. Of course, now there were only 11. Leng Shiqi had also learned that generally speaking, the average number of guards should be around 15. The 28th Guard indeed had fewer people. No wonder Wei Xiangming coveted the 29th Guard. Early in the morning, the 28th Guard received a headless body that had been burned to charcoal. Naturally, it was Wei Xiangming. Knowing that their envoy inspector had died, the others were naturally worried sick. They immediately tried to find out what had happened last night, and who had killed Wei Xiangming. When they learned that it was Leng Shiqi, the new envoy inspector at the middle stage of Spirit Aperture Realm, who killed Wei Xiangming, their first thought was that it was impossible. A middle stage Spirit Aperture Realm cultivator killed a middle stage gang Spirit Aperture Realm cultivator? Was this a dream? Unfortunately, no matter whether they believed it or not, this was the truth. Moreover, Leng Shiqi had already brought people to them. One of them seemed to have seen Leng Shiqi before. He hurriedly shouted, it's him, he's Lu Xingji." He Feichen immediately shouted, "How dare you call Lord Lu's name directly? How dare you?" However, Leng Shiqi stopped He Feichen. He said with a smile, "I'm here under the order of Steward Gao to incorporate the 28th Guard. From now on, we're a family. We're a family, so we should be harmonious." The 28th Guard was skeptical, but no one dared to stand out and question him. In the Dark Thunder Guard, no one dared to use the orders of the 4 stewards. Moreover, the person in front of them was a ruthless person who even dared to kill the envoy inspector. Who dared to question him? The person who spoke just now shrank to the back. They didn't feel good about being incorporated just like that. After all, there was indeed a conflict between the 2 guards. Although the previous inspectors of the 2 guards had died, there was still He Feichen and the others. They could imagine that their future days would not be good, especially since some of them had fought with He Feichen and the others before. In the future, it was very likely that they would make things difficult for them. One of them said cautiously, "Lord Lu, this subordinate was injured some time ago and injured my foundation. I'm planning to retire. I wonder if Lord..." Whoosh! Before this person could finish speaking, he saw a blood-red sword light slashing towards him. He was only at the 5th layer of the spirit aperture realm, so he immediately turned pale with fright. His legs lit up with resplendent spirit apertures, and his figure turned into an afterimage as he tried to dodge far away. However, what he didn't expect was that the scene in front of him suddenly spun, and he felt dizzy. He cursed inwardly, and then he lost consciousness. The others looked at the corpse that had been cut in half by Leng Shiqi. The scarlet red blood and organs spilled all over the ground. Their faces were filled with shock and disbelief, and many of them secretly wiped off their cold sweat. No matter what, that person was still at the spirit aperture realm middle stage, but he was killed in one move like a weak chicken. Was this Lu Xingji really that terrifying? What made everyone even more terrified was that Leng Shiqi actually dared to kill the Dark Thunder Guard in front of everyone. This was a great taboo, and he could definitely be sent to the disciplinary hall. A light punishment would be life imprisonment, and a heavy punishment would be death. Leng Shiqi didn't care at all. Eunuch Gao had said last night that he could freely deal with the 28 guards, which was equivalent to giving him the power to kill. He wiped the blood off his hands and said with a smile, "I just said, we are a family, and a family should be neat. If anyone wants to leave, then they don't treat us as family. Since we are not a family, humph." Saying this, he laughed coldly. This laugh immediately made everyone tremble in fear. "We are willing to pledge our loyalty to Master Lu." The remaining 10 people of the 28 guards said in unison. Leng Shiqi nodded with satisfaction. "Very good, He Feichen. This humble one is here. I will leave the handover process to you. Get it done as soon as possible. This humble one understands." After saying all of this, Leng Shiqi didn't pay any more attention to these people. He believed that these people wouldn't dare to cause any more trouble. Thus, he returned to the room that he had just rebuilt to continue cultivating. When night came, He Feichen came looking for him with a tired but excited face. "Master, everything has been taken care of. The 29 guards now have 16 people. That Wei Xiangming wanted to swallow us up, but he didn't expect us to swallow him up. The ones that needed to be broken up were the 28 guards. Ha ha ha, this is really satisfying. You are quite fast at doing things." Leng Shiqi first praised him, then said, "Today, I made an example of him. The 28 guards won't dare to cause trouble in the short term, but that doesn't mean they won't in the future. Do you understand what I mean?" He Feichen revealed an understanding smile. He took out a small piece of paper from his sleeve and handed it over. "Master, please take a look. The 3 people here are the ones who have the best relationship with Wei Xiangming. They are also people who have fought with us before. As for the rest, they are not a concern. This humble one can take care of them." Leng Shiqi found He Feichen pleasing to the eye. Not only was this person efficient, he also knew how to read people's expressions. It was very easy to use him. "Very good. I will remember these 3 people. In the future, as long as I am not here or in closed-door cultivation, all matters of the 29 guards will be handed over to you. Leng Shiqi had said this to He Feichen not long after he arrived. However, at that time, the 29 guards were in a predicament of being disbanded and reorganized. Although He Feichen was secretly happy, he knew that it might not be fulfilled. But now it is different. The 29 guards will soon be able to operate normally. When that time comes, He Feichen will be under only one person. Many thanks for Master's nurturing. This humble one is willing to be Master's lackey and be loyal for life. He Feichen immediately half knelt on the ground to show his loyalty. Leng Shiqi secretly smiled. He raised his hand and sent out a wave of qi to help He Feichen up. You don't have to be a lackey. Do it well, but don't let your cultivation fall behind. In the future, the position of inspector might be yours. He Feichen's breathing suddenly became hurried. He thought about it and agreed. With Leng Shiqi's current strength, it won't be long before he is promoted to the position of inspector. Then the position of inspector might very well fall into his hands. He felt a bit dizzy. Leng Shiqi continued. Okay, now you need to help me with something. Master, please give me your orders. He Feichen said firmly, as if he would really die if Leng Shiqi told him to. Leng Shiqi smiled mysteriously and said, Go find Elder Huang and tell him this. Chapter 523. Not long after, old Huang walked in with a complicated expression. He cupped his hands and said, Master, I have something to ask. Leng Shiqi thought to himself, he's here so soon? He thought that old Huang would only come tomorrow. It seemed that old Huang really wanted to leave. Old Huang, you don't have to be so polite. Please sit down. If you have something to say, just say it. Leng Shiqi said with a warm smile and poured a cup of tea for old Huang. Elder Huang looked at Leng Shiqi's innocent, boy-next-door smile and felt a little dazed. Was this really the lunatic who killed Wei Xiangming in front of him last night? Old Huang was also an old man who had been in the Dark Thunder Guard for decades. He had seen all kinds of people in his life, but now he couldn't figure out Leng Shiqi's temperament. So he tentatively asked, Master, now that you have incorporated the 28 guards, you have enough manpower. I don't think you need an old man like me. Old Huang, why do you say that? You're a veteran of the 29th Guard Squad. With you around, you're our backbone. We can lose anyone but Elder Huang. Leng Shiqi immediately shook his head. Old Huang knew that Leng Shiqi wouldn't let him go easily, so he simply said bluntly, To be honest, the last time I escaped from death, my foundation has been hurt. Coupled with my old age, I really can't fight anymore. Instead of raising a cripple like me, it's better to let me go back to the fields and live out my old life. Leng Shiqi knew that what he said was the truth. Old Huang was a spirit cultivator at the peak of the spirit aperture realm. It was reasonable to say that people who entered the 4 realms of the sky would be reborn and live for more than 100 years without any problem. But that was an ideal situation. As a spirit cultivator, it was against the heavens. How could there be no battles along the way? If there was a battle, there would naturally be injuries. If it was just a skin wound, it would be fine, but if there were internal injuries, it would hurt the root. Especially for a veteran like old Huang, who had experienced countless battles in his life, his body had long been broken. Therefore, his qi and blood had already begun to decline, and his lifespan was naturally not that long. Once he reached the end of his lifespan, his spiritual strength and mental energy would rapidly weaken. Thus, old Huang would not be able to display much of his combat strength. However, from another perspective, Elder Huang's experience was not something that others could compare to. Even if he was not on the battlefield, he could still handle a lot of things. Leng Shiqi naturally couldn't let Elder Huang go so easily. He also had his own plans. Elder Huang, you're being too serious. Even if you can't carry out missions anymore, you've still built countless Hummers for the Dark Thunder Guards. It's only right that you spend the rest of your life in my 29th Guard Division. I can promise Elder Huang that I won't ask you to carry out any combat missions in the future, as long as you can help me manage the intelligence. His words made Elder Huang a little tempted. This was equivalent to retiring behind the scenes. It seemed like a good idea. However, Elder Huang's heart was already dead. He didn't care about these things at all. Furthermore, he could tell that it was impossible for him to not take out some benefits. Sir, I've already made up my mind. As long as you agree, I can take out all my resources. Leng Shiqi's eyes flashed. He finally heard these words. Elder Huang, are you serious? I wouldn't dare lie to you, sir. Good. I want Elder Huang's fire attribute cultivation method, and all of your fire attribute spiritual techniques. Leng Shiqi stated his purpose. Only then did Elder Huang realize that Leng Shiqi also cultivated spiritual techniques. It turned out that he had been eyeing his own fire attribute cultivation method and spiritual techniques for a long time. Cultivation methods and spiritual techniques were not easily passed down. However, Elder Huang was a rogue cultivator himself. He only joined the Dark Thunder Guards later on, so he didn't care much about inheritances. He agreed without hesitation and took out 3 jade slips from his mustard seed bag and laid them out in a row. The first jade slip is this humble servant's main cultivation method, the Mystic Fire 9 Palace diagram. The second jade slip records some 4th and 5th level spiritual skill. As for the third jade slip, it contains some of this humble servant's cultivation comprehension and secret techniques. The 9 Palace Fire Formation diagram is also included. Leng Shiqi had a deep impression of the 9 Palace Fire diagram. If he used this technique with the pure gold earth dragon flames, its power would definitely be 10 times stronger. Elder Huang is indeed straightforward. I won't be polite with these things. Seeing Leng Shiqi accept the 3 jade slips, Elder Huang secretly sighed in relief. As long as he accepted the items, things would be easy to handle. However, Leng Shiqi suddenly said, However, Elder Huang still needs to carefully consider whether you want to leave or not. Elder Huang's heart sank. Were these things not enough? What a big appetite. Sir, what other requests do you have? His expression didn't change as he asked. It's not that I have any requests, but rather, what requests do you have for me to stay? At this point, Leng Shiqi took out an exquisite jade box. I wonder if this thing can make Elder Huang stay. Elder Huang really couldn't guess what Leng Shiqi was planning. He looked suspiciously at the jade box and didn't know what to do. Elder Huang, why don't you open it and take a look? Leng Shiqi pushed the jade box forward. Elder Huang hesitated for a moment, but still opened the jade box. Immediately, he revealed a shocked expression. Inside was shockingly a crystal formation pill. What was the most attractive thing in this world to a spirit cultivator at the peak of the spirit aperture realm? Without a doubt, it was the crystal formation pill. Elder Huang was originally a loose cultivator. His talent wasn't very high. After entering the Dark Thunder Guard, he didn't have any special resources to support him. Therefore, his current cultivation was something he fought for. However, if he wanted to take another step forward, it would be very, very difficult. First of all, his talent and age greatly limited him. Secondly, there were resources. The treatment in the Dark Thunder Guard was actually very good. However, as a War Thunder Guard, Elder Huang often had high-intensity battles, so most of his resources were used to recuperate. In this way, although he was at the peak of the Spirit Aperture Realm, the Spirit Astral Realm was still somewhat out of reach. The Crystal Formation Pill was his last hope. Originally, he was about to save enough contribution points to exchange for the Crystal Formation Pill from the last mission, but unexpectedly he was tricked by the Thunder Extermination Alliance. Not only were most of his brothers killed or injured, but he also almost spent all his contribution points to save his life. He didn't have many people around him who were concerned about him. There was no possibility for him to advance in his cultivation. This caused his heart to be dead, and he wanted to die in this life. But now, a crystal formation pill was placed in front of him. How could this not move him? However, Elder Huang immediately restrained his mind and asked, Sir, what do you mean? As the saying goes, politeness demands reciprocity. Since Elder Huang gave me such a cultivation method and spiritual skill, I naturally should express my gratitude. I just don't know if this crystal formation pill is enough for Elder Huang to continue to help me? Leng Shiqi laughed. This crystal formation pill was found in Wu Diyao's mustard seed bracelet. If a crystal formation pill could keep Elder Huang as a senior, and possibly create a master of the spirit astral realm, then it would make the best use of it. Chapter 524. Elder Huang stared at the crystallization pill, and his hands in his sleeves trembled slightly. Obviously, he wanted the crystallization pill very much. If he could break through to the gang spirit realm, his lifespan would be greatly extended, which was equivalent to solving 2 of his problems at once. He was really tempted. Leng Shiqi took the opportunity to add fuel to the fire. He raised a finger, and a golden flame ignited on it. The temperature of the whole room rose sharply. Elder Huang, do you recognize this thing? Heaven's strange flame. Elder Huang opened his eyes wide and murmured. In fact, when Leng Shiqi fought with Wei Xiangming last night, he also noticed it, but at that time, he was not sure and did not dare to believe that Leng Shiqi had the heaven strange flame. But now the fact was in front of him, and he could finally confirm that the heaven strange flame was a supreme treasure for spirit cultivators who practice fire techniques. As long as you can break through to the gang spirit realm, I can use the heaven strange flame to help you condense gang spirit. Condense gang spirit with the heaven strange flame. Elder Huang's pupils shrank. In that way, even if he did not have the heaven strange flame, his gang spirit would contain a trace of the heaven strange flame's power. Even if it was only a trace, its power was far beyond the ordinary fire gang spirit. After a long while, Elder Huang sighed dejectedly. I am ashamed to accept it. Haha. Leng Shiqi laughed instead. He could see that Elder Huang had actually agreed in his heart. As the saying goes, having an elder at home is like having a treasure. Elder Huang, you are the treasure of our 29th guard. I have many things to ask for your advice in the future. Alas, I will do my best to assist you, sir. Elder Huang was finally persuaded by Leng Shiqi. Leng Shiqi picked up the crystallization pill and put it in Elder Huang's hand. You don't have to do anything recently, just break through to the gang spirit realm. If you need anything, you can come to me at any time. Yes, sir. When I break through to the gang spirit realm, I will fight for you, sir. Elder Huang held the crystallization pill in his hand, and his momentum also changed greatly. The dejectedness had disappeared without a trace, and there was some pride. I await your good news. Then I will take my leave first. I'll drive you. After sending Elder Huang off, Leng Shiqi smiled with satisfaction. In the future, all the chores could be handed over to He Feichen, and the intelligence could be handled by Senior Huang. What's more, there might be a powerful gang spirit realm cultivator, so he could be a hands-off boss. Then he took out the 3 jade slips that Elder Huang had given him, and prepared to cultivate these cultivation methods and spiritual skills. One had to know that what he lacked the most right now was the fire element. This could be considered as making up for one of his major shortcomings. Coupled with the crimson gold earth dragon flame, the fire element would instead become his strongest aspect. What surprised Leng Shiqi the most was that, perhaps because he had never practiced any fire elemental techniques, the mystical Fire 9 Palace painting could actually help him open more than 20 spiritual cavities. Counting it this way, the number of spiritual cavities he could open was already over 330. He was only a dozen or so spiritual cavities away from the final great circle. He cultivated for a night with joy. At noon the next day, when he was about to look for something to eat and drink, he met Wu Diyao. As soon as Wu Diyao saw Leng Shiqi, he mysteriously pulled him to a secret place and whispered, "Brother Xingji, there have been rumors about you these days outside. What happened in the battle that night? I saw the fluctuation of the spiritual skill. It seemed that you had made a move. Was Wei Xiangming really killed by you?" Leng Shiqi didn't hide anything. After all, there was nothing to hide in that battle. Sooner or later, it would spread throughout the Dark Thunder Guards. He nodded and said, "Yes." Hiss. Wu Diyao sucked in a breath of cold air. When he was in the elite club, he had also heard that Leng Shiqi had killed Ji1, who had just entered the gang spirit realm. How long had it been since then? Even Wei Xiangming, who was in the middle stage of the gang spirit realm, was killed by Leng Shiqi? What a terrifying strength. What a terrifying speed of progress. Oh, Brother Xingji, you don't know that many people are dissatisfied with you now. They say that you are spoiled and do evil because of eunuch Gao. Maybe you killed Wei Xiangming by some shameful means. Furthermore, that Wei Xiangming is quite popular among the envoy inspectors. Many envoy inspectors are clamoring to avenge him. Brother Xingji, you have to keep a low profile these few days, Wu Diyao said with a nervous expression. Leng Shiqi had expected this situation more or less, but he estimated that those people were just talking about it. After all, who would really fight with him for a dead person? Here was the Dark Thunder Guards. No one was a fool. Thank you for your concern, Brother Wu. You didn't come here just to talk about this, did you? Leng Shiqi teased. Hey Brother Xingji, you are really insightful. Last time we mentioned that Tianbao firm was going to hold an auction. I have got the invitation. As he spoke, he took out an exquisite gilded invitation. However, he didn't give it to Leng Shiqi directly. Instead, he secretly rubbed his hands. How could Leng Shiqi not know what he meant? The fact that Wu Diyao had helped him get the invitation card was already an act of kindness. There must be a price behind it. Leng Shiqi gave him a total of 10,000 spirit stones without hesitation. How can I accept this? Looking at the 10,000 spirit stones lying in the mustard seed bag, Wu Diyao's eyes almost popped out of his head. In fact, with his current net worth, it was definitely far more than this amount, but his nature was somewhat avaricious. Once he saw the spirit stones, he couldn't move. Brother Wu, please accept it. Otherwise, I will feel bad. TSK, Brother Xingji is really generous. Wu Diyao smiled as he accepted the spirit stones and handed the invitation to Leng Shiqi. Leng Shiqi opened it and saw that the auction was going to start the day after tomorrow. Brother Xingji, if you really want to gain something from the auction, it's best to exchange for more spirit stones in the next 2 days. Although you can use items to exchange for spirit stones, the price will be lowered to the lowest. It's not worth it, Wu Diyao suggested. Leng Shiqi thought about it and agreed. He originally had a lot of spirit stones, but he had spent a portion of them in the past few days. He only had about 250,000 spirit stones left. This was a huge amount for a spirit aperture realm cultivator. However, there were no ordinary people in the auction. If he really encountered a cultivation method that he wanted and didn't have enough spirit stones, it would be too miserable. After that, he went to the inner city with Wu Diyao. While he gained a lot of knowledge, he also exchanged some of his idle resources for spirit stones. Now he had a total of 350,000 spirit stones. This gave him a lot of confidence. In the next 2 days, everything went on as usual. The 29 Guards Division was also repaired. Leng Shiqi also specially instructed him to set up formations in the meeting hall and the martial arts arena. In addition, he also built a secret room for him to cultivate in. 2 days later, the Celestial Treasure House's auction finally began. Chapter 525. The Celestial Treasure Firm was one of the most famous firms in the Thunderous Dynasty. Not only was their business spread throughout the Thunderous Dynasty, they could even be seen in the other 2 dynasties. It was said that the background of the Celestial Treasure Firm was not simple. It was said that there was once an expert at the unity of heaven and man realm who caused trouble at an auction. In the end, his corpse was found a few days later. The corpse was found in the city. A person at the unity of heaven and man realm was actually killed so silently. One could imagine how terrifying the strength of the person who killed him was. Since then, no one dared to cause trouble at any auction held by the Celestial Treasure Firm, regardless of the scale. On this day, Leng Shiqi and Wu Diyao walked into the Celestial Treasure Firm's auction together. When they entered, they saw that the place was as big as a football field. The decorations were grand and magnificent. When they entered, there were already over 1,000 people seated. The 2 of them found their seats and sat down. At the same time, they continued to look around. The most eye-catching thing was the high platform that took up a quarter of the venue, and the private rooms that surrounded the venue. Wu Diyao looked at the uniquely shaped private rooms with envy. Brother Xingji, those private rooms can't be entered just because you have money. Take us, the Dark Thunder Guards, as an example. At the very least, you have to be at the level of a vice manager to have the qualifications to get a private room. Leng Shiqi estimated that there were over 100 private rooms. Currently, more than half of them were already occupied. Sure enough, there were too many high officials and nobles in the imperial city. The two of them had only been in the imperial city for a short period of time, so they only knew a few people. However, the others all knew each other. Whether it was because they were close or because they had some grudges, the entire venue was filled with chatter. At this moment, all the voices suddenly quieted down. Leng Shiqi and Wu Diao looked towards the entrance at the same time. There a group of people walked in. The leader was a handsome young man. He held a folding fan in his hand and had an elegant demeanor. His handsome face had a smile that made people feel like they were bathing in the spring breeze. His every movement was filled with nobility. There were 3 people behind the young man. 2 of them were maids and a guard. What was shocking was that the 2 maids were at the spirit aperture realm. Looking at the expressionless guard, they were shocked to see that he was an expert at the unity of heaven and man realm. Just who was this young man? That's the 13th prince. The 13th prince has returned to the imperial capital. It's said that the 13th prince's mother passed away, and he took the initiative to stay by her coffin for 3 years. I didn't expect 3 years to pass so quickly. Oh my God, the 13th prince is so handsome and filial. If I could marry him, I would be willing to die. Some of the people around began to whisper, and Leng Shiqi heard many of them. He also knew the identity of the young man. However, he did not expect the Prince of Dynasty to attend the auction. TSK. Brother Xingji, look at this prince's temperament. It's really different from others. Wu Diyao shook his head and said enviously. Leng Shiqi did not show any emotion. How many princes can there be in this world? Moreover, nobles and generals all have their own statuses. Maybe Brother Wu can make these princes bow their heads to you in the future. Wu Diao looked at Leng Shiqi in surprise and muttered to himself. Nobles and generals all have their own statuses. Nobles and generals all have their own statuses. The 13th prince was led into a private room. Wherever he passed, everyone took the initiative to open up a wide path for him. This was their respect for the royal family. After the 13th prince walked into the private room, the crowd was in an uproar. Everyone was discussing why he had come to the auction. Perhaps there really was something unexpected this time. Leng Shiqi did not bother to pay attention to them. He only needed to get 1 or 2 suitable level 5 cultivation methods. Even if there was some amazing treasure, it had nothing to do with him. After that, many important people came, but they were not as important as the 13th prince. Wu Diao recognized a few of them and introduced them to Leng Shiqi one by one. Look at that little old man. His name is Wan Yangyin. Don't be fooled by his appearance. He is an expert of the imperial family's hall of worship. His cultivation is shocking. And that fat girl. She is the daughter of the current prime minister. Although her appearance is ordinary, she is a famous genius in the imperial family. She is not even 30 years old, but she is already at the spirit aperture realm. As for that yellow-robed man who just came, he is even more powerful. He is one of the 4 punishment envoys of the Discipline Commission, Gu Xiao. It is said that he has an ambiguous relationship with Lei Mayan. About an hour later, the doors of the auction hall closed. Leng Shiqi glanced around. Just the people sitting below were over 10,000. At this moment, the stage flashed with layers of dazzling lights. A shrewd man with a goatee walked out. It's Ouyang Hongkai, one of the few master appraisers of the Thunder Flame Imperial family. With him here, we can rest assured about the items in this auction. Ouyang Hongkai's appearance caused quite a commotion. He was brimming with smiles as he said, "Everyone, we are all old friends. I will not waste time on idle chatter. The auction will now begin." Just as he finished speaking, a pillar of light rose up from the stage. A specially shaped flower appeared. 4th tier material, clear moonflower. It can be used to refine pills with Yin attributes. It can also be used to refine tools. Even if it is placed in a room, it will have a calming effect. The starting price is 3,000 spirit stones. Each bid must not be lower than 500 spirit stones. Leng Shiqi only glanced at it and lost interest. His lack of interest did not mean that others would not be interested. Soon he remembered the rising bids. The price soared until it was finally won by a young man for 8,000 spirit stones. The young girl beside him immediately beamed with joy. This clear moonflower might not be an overly precious material, but it was still quite good to make a beauty smile. Thinking of this, Lung Shiqi suddenly remembered that he still had something from the Delta Origi that he had not given her. Ever since he came to the imperial capital, he had not been idle. In his busy schedule, he had almost forgotten about this matter. At the same time, he also remembered that Inkfrost's ghost man had arranged 3 people for him. Those 3 people would appear at an appropriate time. He did not know what time it would be. Time slipped away while Lung Shiqi was distracted. After an unknown period of time, he was poked by Wu Diao. Brother Xingji, it is now the 5th tier resources. Hearing this, he immediately became spirited. 5th tier resources are the most abundant in every auction. There will definitely be no shortage of cultivation techniques. This time, Brother Xingji will definitely get what he wants. Then I will borrow Brother Wu's auspicious words. At this moment, Ouyang, who was on the high platform, took out a secret book. His face revealed a profound smile as he said, "This is the 5th level martial art, Fish and Water Joyous Technique. As for its effect, I won't explain it too much. This is a rare martial art. The starting price is 20,000 spirit stones. Each bid must not be lower than 3,000 spirit stones." Chapter 526. Joyous Fish and Water Technique? Just by hearing the name, one could tell that it wasn't a proper technique. Many of the people present let out a laugh that all men understood. Pfft! Wu Diao almost burst out laughing. This name is really wonderful. Joyous Fish and Water. If you're happy, I'm happy too. Haha, wonderful, wonderful. Brother Xingji, what do you think of this technique? Do you want to buy it? We can study it together. He suddenly covered his mouth. That's not what I meant. What I meant was that we should study it separately. Originally, he was just teasing him. Who would have thought that he would nod seriously and say, "Okay." What? Wu Diao almost thought that he had misheard. He didn't mishear. Lung Shiqi was currently staring at the screen on the stage. On it was the characteristics of the Joyous Fish and Water Technique, and the spiritual cavities that could be opened. Although this was a very special technique, it was still a 5th level technique. Naturally, there were spiritual cavities that needed to be opened. Those spiritual cavities were all spiritual cavities that Lung Shiqi needed. If he could obtain this technique, he would be able to gather all the spiritual cavities. He was determined to obtain this Joyous Fish and Water Technique. At this moment, someone had already started bidding. 23,000 spirit stones. 26,000. This time it was the youth who had bid for the clear moonflower. As soon as he said that, the young girl beside him blushed and started hammering him. This caused a burst of teasing laughter. "Young man, I'm afraid that you won't be able to handle this technique. How about you give it to me? 30,000 spirit stones." A white-haired person laughed. "You don't have any respect for your elders. I think you're the one who won't be able to handle it." 40,000. The people around the youth immediately retorted. It seemed that they were the youth's friends. At this moment, a voice came from the private room above. 60,000. That person only said 2 words. What was surprising was that the voice belonged to a woman. There was a girl who was interested in this technique. Many people had a strange feeling in their hearts, but there were also people who recognized the owner of the voice. She seems to be the daughter of the Prime Minister, Moe Le. Oh, Moe Le. This name is very suitable for the fish and water merriment technique. Ha ha ha. Someone laughed without restraint, which immediately attracted a roar of laughter. The slightly plump girl sitting in the private room was so angry that she stomped her feet. The maid beside her said, Miss, why did you buy such indecent things? Be careful that the master doesn't blame you." "Humph, I want to buy it, so that those people won't harm the innocent." 63,000 spirit stones. Lung Shiqi also tried to offer a price. He also found that there were not many people who really wanted this cultivation method. Most of them were just joking. But what he didn't know was that his bid had attracted Mo Yile's attention. Her gaze instantly locked onto Lung Shiqi. She immediately categorized him as a villain. She said fiercely, 80,000. As soon as she said this, the voices in the room immediately quieted down. 80,000 spirit stones had exceeded the value of a level 5 cultivation method. Generally speaking, a level 5 cultivation method was worth around 50,000 spirit stones. Moe Lee's initial bid of 60,000 was barely acceptable, but now that she had opened her mouth to offer 80,000, it was not worth it. But who asked her to be the daughter of the Prime Minister? She was rich and willful. No one could control her. So everyone shut up and didn't continue to raise the price. Leng Shiqi was helpless. Moe Lu had directly increased the price by nearly 20,000 spirit stones. This meant that no matter how much he bid, he would lose. This was not the most troublesome thing for him. Now he could see that Moe Lu was deliberately disrupting the situation. She didn't want others to get the fish and water merriment technique. If he continued to bid, Moe Lu would definitely continue to follow. But he couldn't not increase the price. He couldn't just watch this cultivation method fly away in front of his eyes. So he said, 83,000. Wu Diao secretly tugged at Leng Shiqi and whispered, "Brother Xingji, are you serious? 80,000 spirit stones is a bit expensive. Also, we don't have to provoke Moe Lu. Let her have it." Moe Lu was also angry. Seeing that Leng Shiqi still dared to raise the price, she felt that he was a pervert. She said angrily, "I'll bid 100,000 spirit stones." Wow. The room was immediately filled with gasps. 100,000 spirit stones might not be much to the people in the room, but no one's spirit stones came from the wind. 100,000 spirit stones to buy a level 5 cultivation method that was not very useful was too stupid. Leng Shiqi was silent. The others also felt that he would not continue to raise the price. Moe Lu smiled proudly. "When I get this cultivation method, I'll tear it up." Who created this crappy cultivation method? Ouyang Hongsai's mouth was about to bloom. It was rare for the price of a level 5 cultivation method to be doubled. He could also draw a lot of commission. Miss Mo has bid 100,000 spirit stones. Is there no higher bid? Leng Shiqi was still silent. The reason he was silent was not because he had given up, but because he was playing with his mentality. At this moment, Moe Lu must have thought that victory was in her hands and was feeling proud. If he raised the price at this time, Moe Lu would definitely go crazy. It was very likely that she would raise the price again. If it was for a real treasure, it would be fine. However, it was obviously not worth it to raise the price for such an improper cultivation method. Presumably, someone beside Moe Lu would say something to stop it. Of course, this was only Leng Shiqi's guess, but he still had to try. Since no one wants to raise the price then, Ouyang Hongkai said slowly. This was his usual method. Some people might still be hesitating, so he wanted to give them a chance. 103,000 spirit stones. Leng Shiqi shouted. Hearing this, all the pairs of eyes in the stadium focused on Leng Shiqi. They all looked at him strangely. Even Wu Diao's eyes widened. He couldn't believe that this was a decision made by the unusually smart Leng Shiqi. Ouyang Hongkai smiled. He really did trick someone. As for Moe Lu, she was furious. She glared at Leng Shiqi with fire in her eyes. She wanted to eat him on the spot. Good fellow, you have money, right? Let's see who's the rich one. I want to raise it to 15. However, before she could finish, she was stopped by the maid next to her. She said earnestly, "Miss, but we only have 100,000 spirit stones on us." "What are you afraid of? I have a lot of things. At most, I'll just exchange them for spirit stones." Moe Lu didn't care. The female attendant immediately revealed a difficult expression. Old Master had specially instructed that young Miss shouldn't spend money recklessly. If he were to know that young Miss used over 100,000 spirit stones to purchase a 5th-level cultivation technique, and that kind of cultivation technique at that, he would definitely fly into a rage. At that time, I'm afraid my skin will be torn open again. Moe Lee's expression changed. Thinking of her strict father, she was a bit listless. However, she couldn't just let go of the Yu Shui Yu technique. Chapter 527. Mo Yao rolled her eyes. Xiao Ai, do you think if I give him tens of thousands of spirit stones, will he continue to follow? I'm not sure. Whatever. I'm sure he won't give up. Then she raised her voice and shouted, 150,000 spirit stones. If you continue to follow, I'll let you have the technique. 150,000 spirit stones. Buying a 5th level technique? She was not crazy, she was stupid. The price had tripled. Moreover, the fish and water pleasure technique was not a top-grade technique. Whoever bought it would be stupid. When Lung Shiqi heard Mo Yao's words, he felt relieved. It seemed that he had made the right bet. Mo Yao was the apple of the Prime Minister's eye, but such a person would be strictly restricted. 100,000 spirit stones was not a small number. Generally speaking, only spirit cultivators in the spirit gang realm were qualified to take it out, let alone 150,000. He also saw that this was Mo Yao's last struggle, so he ignored the strange eyes of the people and said, 153,000. A large group of people cast all kinds of eyes again, most of which were ridiculing, but there were others who wondered if there was something special about the fish and water pleasure technique. This kind of thing had happened before. The things that had been confirmed by the appraiser actually had hidden mysteries, and in the end, it was picked up by others. Some people carefully read the description of the technique on the stage, but they really did not see any mystery. It was just a relatively ordinary dual cultivation technique. There were also a few people who wanted to give it a try, but when they thought of the high price of 150,000 spirit stones, they retreated. This guest has bid 153,000 spirit stones. Is there anyone who wants to compete again? Ouyang Hongsai's mouth was almost crooked. This time, the price of the technique had tripled, and he could receive a lot of shares. He asked 3 times in a row, and still no one increased the price, so he made the final decision. In this case, I announce that the fish and water pleasure technique belongs to this guest. Please go backstage for the transaction. Hearing this, Lung Shiqi was finally relieved. 150,000 spirit stones was indeed far beyond his budget, but as long as he could gather all the 360 spiritual cavities in his body, he would buy it even if it was 300,000. A young girl walked in front of him and bowed. Young master, please follow me. Lung Shiqi left the already demented Wu Diao here, and went to a secret room in the backstage of the auction amidst a burst of laughter. The young girl smiled sweetly and said, Don't worry, young master. There are dozens of restrictions in this room, so there won't be any accidents. This is the secret manual of the fish and water pleasure technique. Mister, please take a look. As she spoke, the girl took out the secret manual that was previously placed on the high platform. Lung Shiqi glanced at it, and a system message that only he could see appeared in front of him. This cultivation technique was not fake. Lung Shiqi readily took out 153,000 spirit stones, and successfully obtained the cultivation method. By the time he returned to his seat, the next round of bidding had already begun. The item being auctioned was still a cultivation method, but Lung Shiqi had no interest in it at all. Even after Lung Shiqi sat back down, Wu Diao was still in a daze. He was still secretly complaining in his heart. More than 150,000 spirit stones, and he wasted it just like that. What a waste, what a waste. Lung Shiqi was too lazy to care about what others thought. His trip to the auction had ended perfectly, and he didn't want to see what treasures would appear next. Rank 5 resources were of no use to him, and he couldn't afford rank 6 or even higher items. The rest of the time was just for him to broaden his horizons. As Ouyang took out more and more precious items, the bidding in the field became more and more intense. Even Wu Diao blindly joined in. However, although he also made some profits, he was still far from qualified to compete with the people here. One item after another was auctioned off. Cultivation methods, spiritual skills, spiritual weapons, medicinal pills, materials, and so on were all available. The atmosphere in the venue also became more and more lively. After Ouyang auctioned off a rare crystal stone, he deliberately remained silent for a few seconds before saying loudly, "The next item is the last item of this round. It's just that this item is a little special. Please take a look." Ding 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 ding. Before they saw the item, the crowd first heard the crisp sound of a bell. They all looked over curiously, and saw a carriage coming in from the side of the stage. The carriage was very beautifully decorated, and there was a huge black curtain in the middle of the carriage. The tinkling sound came from behind the black curtain. The carriage stopped steadily in the middle of the stage, and it emitted a refreshing fragrance that seeped into the nose. This aroused the crowd's curiosity. What is it that's so mysterious? This Oyanghong is still keeping us in suspense. It's definitely not an ordinary item. Leng Shiqi also looked over curiously. Everyone, please calm down. Oyanghong kept them in suspense, and then removed the black curtain on the carriage. It turned out that there was a cage under the black curtain. The cage was unusually beautiful, decorated with little flower petals and tassels. It didn't look like a cage for prisoners at all. When the crowd saw what was inside the cage, the entire venue suddenly burst into cries of surprise. There was actually a thin layer of gauze under the black curtain, and one could vaguely see the beautiful figure behind it. Although it was not real, it was not difficult to taste the taste of a peerless beauty from the gentle and graceful figure. The item this time was actually a beauty. It wasn't that this kind of thing hadn't happened in previous auctions, but it was something that small and medium-sized companies would do in order to attract attention. Auctions at the level of the Heavenly Treasure House had never done this kind of business before. However, since this woman was sent to the auction by the Heavenly Treasure House, she must be extraordinary. Oyanghong said in a timely manner. This one knows that ordinary women can't enter your eyes. This woman's name is Su Su. Not only is she beautiful, her identity is even more shocking. He suddenly tore off the last layer of white gauze, finally revealing the woman's true appearance. Looking at her from a distance, one would feel that this woman was elegant and had a sense of lightness. Looking at her carefully, one would see that she was around 16 or 17 years old. Her skin was as white as snow, and her eyes were like clear water. She looked around with a bit of timidity, and was currently shivering in the corner of the cage, making people feel pity for her. Most of the people present were a bit short of breath. Everyone loved beauty, let alone a beauty. Leng Shiqi couldn't help but praise. This Su Su was definitely one of the most beautiful women he had ever seen. She could definitely be compared to Lian Yi. He also noticed that there was a mark of an azure phoenix spreading its wings on the woman's forehead, which added a bit of mystery to her. What made him feel strange was that Su Su's figure gave him a vaguely familiar feeling. Thank you to an old man for the 1,000 Qidian coins tip. Chapter 528. Seeing everyone's reaction, Ouyang Hongkai smiled. Lady Su Su isn't just for show. Everyone can check her cultivation. At the Heavenly Treasure Firm's auction, everyone agreed not to check other people's cultivation, because it was a provocative action and would inevitably cause conflict. However, since Ouyang Hongkai allowed it, everyone went to check Su Su's cultivation. Hiss. Immediately, the sound of people sucking in cold air rose and fell. What, the 8th layer of the spirit aperture realm? How old is she? How is this possible? That Mo Yile is only at the early stage of the spirit aperture realm. She's almost 30. It's fake. Even Mo Yile herself stared with wide eyes. She was known as one of the most dazzling geniuses in the imperial capital, but now she felt ashamed. Haha, everyone, believe me. Actually, when I saw Lady Su Su, I had the same reaction. In fact, the reason why Lady Su Su has such cultivation is because... He deliberately paused. She has the Phoenix Luan bloodline. Once he said that, the auction house fell into a dead silence. However, it was as if there was an explosion, and the place was filled with noises. Ancient bloodline, the Phoenix Luan bloodline. Impossible, the bloodline disappeared tens of thousands of years ago. That's right. According to what I know, the Phoenix Luan bloodline was extremely rare even in the ancient times. How could it appear now? Leng Shiqi didn't know much about the Phoenix Luan bloodline, but he himself had the bloodline. He had two bloodlines. One was the mysterious Dark Shadow clan's bloodline, and the other was still unknown. He thought to himself, if Su Su really has the Phoenix Luan bloodline, it's possible for her to reach the 8th layer of the spirit aperture realm at such a young age. However, he was confused again. If that was the case, then wasn't Su Su a rare genius? How could he have fallen to the point of becoming a prisoner and being sold as a commodity? Ouyang Honkai gestured for everyone to quiet down. He then took out a transparent tube as thick as a finger and said, "What is this? I'm sure some of you can recognize it. That's something to check the bloodline. It's been lost for a long time." An old voice came from the private room upstairs. The person who spoke was the expert from the Imperial Consecration Hall. "I admire Mr. Zhang's vision." Ouyang Honkai flattered her a little and continued, "Whether Miss Susu has the Phoenix Luan bloodline or not, we'll know after a test." With that, he moved his spirit force and a very thin needle appeared at the end of the tube. Then he mercilessly stabbed it into Susu's jade-like arm. Susu let out a painful groan, which made many people feel as if their hearts were being twisted by a knife. In particular, the young people felt like they had been stabbed. Of course, there were also some women here who were indignant, especially those who were accompanying their male companions. They wanted nothing more than to slap them a few times. However, a loud and clear phoenix cry suddenly rang out, and everyone's eyes immediately turned to the high platform. At this moment, a cyan Wan phantom that was dozens of feet large floated out from Susu's body and rushed into the clouds. "It's the Qing Wan bloodline of the Feng Wan bloodline. Oh my god, it's actually real. Bloodline power. Is there still bloodline power in this world? Unbelievable, unbelievable. Today is really a feast for the eyes. Ha ha ha, it's not a loss at all." In the centermost room upstairs, the 13th prince's eyes lit up, and there seemed to be lightning flashing in his eyes. After a few breaths he smiled. "It's only the thinnest Qing Wan bloodline. This woman's vitality is depleted because of this bloodline. She won't be able to last more than 3 or 4 years. The maid next to him said, "A mere Qing Wan bloodline is nothing compared to His Highness's." In another room, the yellow-robed man didn't care as he drank. The youth next to him said, "Teacher, this girl is not simple. She's just playing to the gallery. She can't compare to you." The yellow-robed man patted the youth's shoulder and continued to drink. Ouyang Honkai put away the tube and the Qing Wan phantom disappeared. Susu seemed to have lost all her strength and fell to the ground. Even her hands were slightly twitching. He said, "I'm sure everyone knows Miss Susu's value. There's no low price for this auction. The minimum increment is 20,000 spirit stones." The minimum increment was 20,000. This was the highest price among all the items up for auction, but everyone's eyes still lit up. Whether it was bringing Susu back to be cultivated, studied, or turned into a slave, she was a very good choice. However, no one bid. This was because everyone had a question in their hearts. Someone like Susu who had an ancient bloodline was someone that even the top sex would fight to recruit. With a little bit of training, she could become a genius. In the future, she would at least be a great expert at the unity of heaven realm. However, why would such a peerless genius with unparalleled beauty be reduced to a commodity? Ouyang Honkai, there's something fishy about this girl. Someone in the room said bluntly. He also said what everyone was thinking. Ouyang Honkai laughed dryly. As the saying goes, no one is perfect. In fact, Miss Susu is suffering from a strange illness. I'm afraid she doesn't have much time left. Once this was said, everyone let out dissatisfied voices. After all this time, it turned out that she was just a defective product? However, even so, Susu's beauty was enough to attract people. Her bloodline could also be studied, but time was limited. If it really didn't work, even being a beautiful bodyguard at the Spirit Aperture realm was not bad. Therefore, after a moment of silence, there were still people who couldn't help but bid. Moreover, the increase in price was quite large. Lung Shiqi stared blankly at Susu, as if his soul was about to leave his body. Seeing this, Wu Diao secretly laughed. "Brother Xingji, you just won the pleasure of fish and water technique. You can bring Miss Susu back to enjoy the happiness of family." In fact, Lung Shiqi had the same intention. However, he didn't mean it the way Wu Diao thought. The reason why he was stunned was because he saw Susu secretly make a hand gesture before she fell to the ground. That was the highest level code in the Blood Seed plan. It meant that she was one of them. This Susu was the person that the Ink Frost Ghoul man arranged for Lung Shiqi. He never expected that she would appear in such a way. However, he was also very confused as to how the Ink Frost Schoolman knew that he would participate in this auction. What if Wu Diao didn't help him get an invitation? Wouldn't he miss this opportunity? Moreover, with his current wealth, he might not be able to compete with others. If Su Su was bought by someone else, would he have to go and snatch her? However, what shocked him even more was that after confirming that Su Su was one of them, the more he looked at Su Su, the more familiar she looked. When he thought of the name Su Su and the Qing Yuan bloodline, a figure gradually overlapped with Su Su. That was his senior sister Su Wan. Whether it was their figure, characteristics, or cultivation, Su Su and Su Wan were very similar. In addition, the Ink Frost Schoolman also mentioned that the three people that were arranged for Leng Shiqi were related to him. Now Leng Shiqi could confirm that Su Su was Su Wan. However, Leng Shiqi had a headache because the price was already as high as 120,000 spirit stones. He still had about 200,000 spirit stones left. This was a huge sum outside, but it was clearly far from enough if he wanted to bring Su Wan back. He looked at Wu Diao, who was enjoying the show, and asked, "Brother Wu, how many spirit stones do you have?" What did you say?" Wu Diao was so excited that he didn't pay attention to what Leng Shiqi had said. He had no choice but to repeat himself. Wu Diao's expression stiffened as if he thought of something. Then his eyes slowly widened and his expression became strange. No way, no way. He shook his head frantically. "Brother Xingji, you're not really planning on participating in the auction, are you?" "That's exactly what I was thinking. Unfortunately, I don't have enough spirit stones on me, so I'm planning on asking Brother Wu to be generous," Leng Shiqi said seriously. He didn't seem to be joking at all. After Wu Diao recovered from his surprise, he remembered that in the minor chaos paradise, Leng Shiqi had also left the Blood Moon, without paying any price. He was now certain that Leng Shiqi was someone who liked women. Thus, he was secretly happy that he had found Leng Shiqi's hobby. This way, it would be much easier to interact with him in the future. He immediately took out his mustard seed bracelet and said, "Brother Xingji, I have about 50,000 spirit stones here. I'll lend them all to you. However, even though we're friends, I'll still charge you interest." 140,000. 160,000. As they spoke, the price continued to rise. Leng Shiqi didn't hesitate. "Brother Wu, don't worry. Chapter 529. With 50,000 more spiritual stones, Leng Shiqi finally had some confidence. He knew that 250,000 spiritual stones was still not enough, but at least he was qualified to bid. He bid 180,000 spiritual stones. As soon as he opened his mouth, the people around him noticed him. "Hey, is this the guy who bought the fish water joy technique with 150,000 spiritual stones?" "That's him. He's interested in Miss Susu again. TSK, it's good to be young. Judging from the current price, it would take at least 300,000 spiritual stones to take Miss Susu away. How many spiritual stones does this guy have? Look, he's wearing the Dark Thunder Guard inspector's uniform. He must have gotten a lot." Tiske dog. Mo Yao also saw Leng Shiqi bid again. She immediately gnashed her teeth in hatred. She didn't care about anything else and directly shouted, "I bid 200,000 spirit stones." This time, the maid didn't stop her because she knew that 200,000 spiritual stones was definitely not enough. Her mistress just wanted to raise the price to vent her anger. Leng Shiqi didn't raise the price again. Instead, he called a nearby maid. "What can I do for you, young master? I want to exchange something for spiritual stones," Leng Shiqi whispered. He had no other choice. The price continued to soar. Even if Wu Diao lent him 50,000 spiritual stones, it wouldn't be enough. He could only use his various resources to exchange for spiritual stones. Fortunately, he had accumulated a lot of resources. Before coming to the auction, he sold some of the things he didn't need. Now most of the things he had left were materials for refining awakening pills, and some commonly used pills. At this point, he could only reluctantly sell these things. However, he suddenly had a flash of inspiration. He thought of another way. He secretly opened the system interface and saw that he still had more than 5,000 system coins. He smiled secretly. Lung Shiqi was quickly led to another room. This time, there was already an elegant middle-aged man sitting inside. "Guest, please take a seat. I'm an appraiser of the Celestial Treasure Firm. What do you want to exchange for spiritual stones?" To the Celestial Treasure Firm, any method of exchanging spirit stones at an auction was very popular. This was because if one wanted to exchange for spirit stones, they would definitely lack spirit stones. Thus, the Celestial Treasure establishment would lower the price of the item to the lowest and resell it for a profit. Lung Shiqi was pressed for time. He had to get back before the end of the auction. Without saying a word, he waved his hand and placed several items on the table in front of him. There were a total of 6 items. When the appraiser saw them, he immediately revealed a puzzled expression. To be able to be invited by the Heavenly Treasure Firm to be an appraiser, he must have a vast knowledge of the world's rare items. However, among the 6 items placed in front of him, other than the 2 5th-grade spirit artifacts, he had never seen anything else before. These 2 level 5 spirit tools are of the highest quality. I can give young master 40,000 spirit stones. As for the other items, the appraiser couldn't help but frown. Lung Shiqi was quite satisfied with the 40,000 spirit stones exchanged for the 2 level 5 spirit weapons. At least he didn't lose much. The items he took out were actually bought from the system store with system coins. The remaining 4 items were materials. 2 were of the 5th grade and 2 were of the 6th grade. They all came from other worlds. Of course, the appraiser wouldn't have seen them before. However, the appraiser could roughly tell the quality of the materials, but the price wasn't easy to give. If it was a material he recognized, he could give the lowest price. However, he didn't recognize the material, so how could he give a price? But if he were to invite other appraisers, then wouldn't he lose all his face? Since that was the case, he pretended to look at the items for a while and said tentatively, 2 5th-grade materials can be exchanged for 36,000 spirit stones. 2 6th-grade materials are worth 220,000 spirit stones. Together, 256,000 spirit stones. How about that? Lung Shiqi immediately shook his head and said, "The items I took out are extremely rare. It can be said that they can only be found by chance. If I wasn't in urgent need of spirit stones, I wouldn't take them out to sell. If you can't see the value of these items, then please find another appraiser." The appraiser's face was a little embarrassed. He said stubbornly, "Young master, are you looking down on my eyesight? Fine, these items are indeed very precious. How about this? The total price can be increased to 270,000. Lung Shiqi still shook his head. He stretched out 3 fingers and said, 300,000. 300,000? That's impossible. The appraiser's expression also darkened. Emph. Lung Shiqi coldly snorted. A colorful light flashed in his eyes. You have eyes but you can't see. Selling to you for 300,000 is already a big loss for me. Forget it, let's find another appraiser. In the appraiser's eyes, he seemed to see himself being disgraced, being pointed at by his peers, and finally being ostracized. His mind was unstable. He gritted his teeth and said, "Fine, 300,000 it is." Not long after, Lung Shiqi returned to his seat with 550,000 spirit stones. At this time, the price had reached 260,000. Lung Shiqi secretly rejoiced that he had gone to exchange for spirit stones in advance. If he had waited until now, it would have been too late. When Wu Diao saw Lung Shiqi walking back with a straight back, he knew that Lung Shiqi had gained something. "Brother Xingji, there aren't many people bidding now. There's also good news. No one from the private rooms upstairs is bidding." The people in the box upstairs were all extraordinary people. As long as they did not bid, the price would not be too outrageous. After sitting down, Lung Shiqi was not in a hurry to bid. Instead, he was going to wait and see what price several people could offer now. After 260,000, someone raised the price to 280,000 after a while. At this point, the venue quieted down. 280,000 spirit stones. Even a master of Gang Spirit Realm might not be able to take out so many spirit stones. With so many spirit stones, One could hire several guards of Spirit Aperture Realm for a long time. Even if one took it to a brothel, it would be enough to squander for a long time. As for Su Su's Qingluan bloodline, it was useless for ordinary people. And those who wanted to study the power of bloodline had their own concerns. That was, if a person with such aptitude like Su Su could be sold, then her bloodline might have some defects. Therefore, many people gradually gave up on this idea. After all, 300,000 spirit stones was something that even they would lose a piece of meat. More importantly, they knew that there was a very important treasure in this auction. That was their real goal. Spending 300,000 spirit stones for a woman would cause them to miss the final treasure. That was not worth the loss. For a while no one bid. Ouyang Hongkai was about to speak when Leng Shiqi's voice came. 300,000. Swish, swish, swish. All eyes turned to him. When they saw that it was Leng Shiqi who bid, there was a lot of laughter in the venue. Chapter 530. Leng Shiqi first bought the fish and water joy technique at a high price, and now he wanted to take Su Su away. Everyone knew what he wanted to do. Mo Ilu said with disgust. This person is still haunting us. If Miss Su Su falls into his hands, she will definitely be ruined. But young miss, you can't raise the price anymore. If that person doesn't increase the price, we can't just take a girl back. I know you talk too much. Ouyang saw that it was Leng Shiqi who made the bid and smiled evilly. This young master is bidding 300,000, is there no higher bid? 320,000 spirit stones. A young man with a jade face spoke. He was the one who bid from the beginning. It seemed like he was determined to take Su Su away. Leng Shiqi's eyes flashed and he shouted, 400,000. Brother Xingji, are you crazy? Wu Diao jumped up as if his tail had been stepped on. Aside from shock, there was also pain on his face. The others were also speechless. They secretly thought that Leng Shiqi was a hothead. How could he waste money like this? It was obvious that the other bidder was struggling. As long as he slowly increased the price, he wouldn't need to spend 400,000 to get Su Su. However, there were also people who were surprised by his wealth. A mere Spirit Aperture Realm cultivator could take out so many spirit stones. It was obvious that he wasn't simple. The young man who just bid was also stunned. He didn't expect Leng Shiqi to raise the price to 400,000. 400,000 spirit stones was enough to buy 10 rank 5 resources, and several rank 6 resources. This number made the young man hesitate. The reason why Leng Shiqi did this was to completely dispel any thoughts of his opponent. Ouyang slowly said, if it doesn't exceed 400,000 spirit stones, Miss Su Su will be this young master's. His gaze was always on the other young man. Right now, he was the only one who was willing to continue bidding. However, the young man sighed and gave up on bidding. Haha, let us congratulate this young master for taking the beauty home. Hearing this, Leng Shiqi was finally relieved. He walked backstage under the strange gazes of the people around him. Young master, Miss Su Su will take a while to arrive. Please wait for a moment. The maid picked up a jade slip and said, this is the method to control the restriction in Miss Su Su's body. As long as young master moves it, she will listen to you. Let me congratulate young master for getting what you want. Got it. You can leave now. Leng Shiqi waved his hand coldly. After a while, Su Su was sent into the room. Leng Shiqi immediately set up layers of methods to isolate the aura here. After Su Su saw Leng Shiqi, the pitiful expression on her face disappeared, and was replaced with indifference. You're pretty rich, said Su Su, or rather Su Luan. At this moment, Leng Shiqi understood why Inkfrost's ghostly man would give him 200,000 spirit stones. It turned out that he had already made preparations. However, Inkfrost's ghostly man never expected the price to rise to 400,000 spirit stones. Leng Shiqi bitterly smiled and said, Senior sister, the way you appeared was too unexpected. If it wasn't for the fact that I had some resources on me, I might not have been able to outbid others. What? You think it's a loss to buy me for 400,000 spirit stones? Su Luan's eyes flickered with coldness. Leng Shiqi felt a chill run down his spine and hurriedly said, Junior brother definitely didn't mean that. This isn't the place to talk. Let's talk about it when we return to my residence. Send someone to send me back first. I still have things to do on the way back. Leng Shiqi thought to himself. Since Su Wan had infiltrated the imperial capital and appeared at the auction, the other helper should be nearby. Su Wan must have gone to pass on a message to the other two. All right. Senior sister, please wait a moment. Leng Shiqi removed the restriction and shouted outside, Guards! Su Wan's expression instantly changed, and she returned to her weak and easy-to-bully appearance. What orders does young master have? Two maids walked in from outside. Leng Shiqi pointed at Su Wan and said with a wicked smile, Send someone to send Miss Su Wan to Dark Lightning Guard 29. Make sure to keep an eye on her. If anything happens, I won't be polite. Yes, this servant will do it right away. Then he and Su Wan looked at each other and parted ways. He went back to continue participating in the auction. Although he didn't have many spirit stones left, and didn't have anything he wanted, it was still good to broaden his horizons. When he returned to his seat, he first returned Wu Diao's 50,000 spirit stones, and gave him an extra 2,000 spirit stones as interest. At first, Wu Diao refused to accept it, but in the end, he accepted it with a smile. After Su Wan's auction ended, the auction entered the third round, which was the auction for the rank 6 resources. This was the main event of the auction, and the most important round for everyone. Rare treasures were auctioned off one after another. There were some items that even Leng Shiqi coveted, but he was embarrassingly short on funds, and could only give up. After about an hour, the third round of the auction finally ended. However, everyone's expressions became even more curious and nervous, because after the third round, there was still a fourth round. In this fourth round, even the lowest quality items were rank 7 treasures. These items were extremely rare. Generally speaking, there would only be 1 or 2 of them. These were the items that the big shots on the second floor were bidding for. The others were just here to watch the show. Ouyang Hongkai waved his hand, and a black jade platform appeared beside him. On top of the platform was a spear that exuded dense demonic energy. Rank 6 Spirit Tool, Deadly Demon Refining Spear. The starting price is 300,000 spirit stones. Each increment must be no less than 50,000 spirit stones. This time, he was very straightforward. He didn't introduce the characteristics of the spirit tool, nor did he waste any time. However, it was precisely this short sentence that caused a huge uproar. Did I hear wrong? The starting price of a rank 6 spirit tool is 300,000 spirit stones? Isn't this the fourth round? Why is it still a rank 6 resource? Is this Ouyang Hongkai confused? What the hell is the Celestial Treasure Firm doing? Everyone, including Leng Shiqi, thought that Ouyang Hongkai might have made a mistake. However, to everyone's surprise, someone from the private room upstairs immediately made a bid. 400,000. Everyone below subconsciously looked up. Their eyes were filled with confusion. Someone actually made a bid? And 100,000 spirit stones at once. Some people were beginning to doubt their lives. 500,000. Heavens, this is one of the discipline enforcers Tu Jingjue. Those big shots are all fighting for this deadly demon refining spear. Could it be that this thing is hiding something? Big brother 2, let me have this item. 600,000. When Wu Diao heard this voice, he said, This is the deputy commander of the patrol. I didn't notice that he was here. One by one, the big shots began to bid. The price rose by 100,000, 200,000. Just hearing these numbers was enough to shock people to the core. At this moment, a gentle but dignified voice sounded. 1 million. Chapter 531. The person who spoke was the 13th prince. The moment he opened his mouth, he bid 1 million spirit stones. This immediately shocked everyone and silenced the auction hall. 1 million spirit stones wasn't much to the 13th prince. Or rather, most of the people on the second floor didn't care. However, even the 13th prince had entered the auction. It was clear that this life-stealing demon refining spear was hiding some unknown secret. Leng Shiqi quietly opened his supercilious eyes and looked through the life-stealing demon refining spear. However, he couldn't find any clues. It was just a rank 6 spirit tool. He turned to look at Wu Diyao and found that he was also dumbfounded. So this auction isn't as simple as it seems. Perhaps those people in the private rooms came for the life-stealing demon refining spear. There must be some unknown secret behind this. However, what does this have to do with me? Leng Shiqi thought to himself and felt that it didn't matter. He just wanted to watch the show and see who would get the demonic spear. However, the 13th prince had already spoken. Who would dare to raise the price? After a short moment of silence, Ouyang Hongkai announced that the life-stealing demon refining spear belonged to the 13th prince. Leng Shiqi felt a bit bored. Seeing that the auction was about to end, he pulled Wu Diyao away. Along the way, Wu Diyao was still mumbling about how this trip was worth it. This auction is quite strange. Not only is there Miss Su Su, who has the Azure Phoenix bloodline, there's also a rank 6 spirit tool worth 1,000,000 spirit stones. I've learned a lot. At the mention of Su Su, Wu Diyao immediately revealed an expression that all men understood. I really don't understand romance. As the saying goes, a night of spring is worth 1,000 gold. Brother Xingji, don't worry about me. You should hurry back. Leng Shiqi felt helpless, but he still smiled mischievously. Thank you for your understanding, Brother Wu. Then I'll be leaving first. After separating from Wu Diyao, Leng Shiqi didn't delay and directly returned to the Dark Thunder Guard headquarters. However, when he walked through the gate of the Dark Thunder Manor, there were people pointing at him and whispering about something. Leng Shiqi knew that Sulwan had already been sent back. His footsteps unconsciously quickened. Walking into the courtyard of the 29th Guard Division, the beautifully decorated carriage was indeed parked there. A dozen or so people were gathered in the courtyard, whispering to each other. Even He Fei Chun was mixed in. Whispering behind their boss's back was also a method to quickly pull their relationship closer. Did you see that young lady just now? She's really a beauty. I heard that it was sent here by someone from the Celestial Treasure Enterprise? That's right. Didn't you go to the auction today? TSK, as expected of my lord. A beauty of this level must cost a lot of spirit stones. But He Fei Chun suddenly thought of something and his face became incomparably strange. He hesitated before saying, "This young lady might not have been bought by Darren. Perhaps she was given to you by someone else." Lu Zhao, Lu Xia, and Lu Dong's expressions also changed. They remembered that Leng Shiqi cultivated the Cold Underworld Treasure Manual, so he definitely wasn't good in that aspect. So they also believed that Leng Shiqi couldn't have bought a delicate beauty. Wasn't that just embarrassing himself? Just as they were whispering to each other, Leng Shiqi walked in. Leng Shiqi habitually concealed his spiritual aura and footsteps, but when he got closer, he could clearly hear the conversation between the few of them. Especially after hearing He Fei Chun's words, he almost spat out a mouthful of blood. Who told you that cultivating the Cold Underworld Treasure Manual required entering the palace? He suddenly remembered that after Lian Yi saw through his identity in Donglin City, he used the Cold Underworld Treasure Manual to prove his innocence. At that time, Lian Ye's expression was the same as He Fei Chen's. Leng Shiqi was about to go crazy. This misunderstanding shouldn't have been secretly spread, right? Cough cough. He couldn't help but let out a dry cough. The people who had just arrived suddenly trembled and felt a chill run down their spines. They stood in a row in panic with frightened expressions, looking very much like elementary school students who had been caught fooling around. Every single person here could be called an expert if they were brought out. Now, facing Leng Shiqi, they actually felt a kind of fear that came from their souls. The key was that Leng Shiqi's achievements in the past few days were too terrifying. First, he defeated He Fei Chun and the others by himself. Then he killed Wei Xiangming in front of Manager Hai. When he recruited the 28 guards, he killed the chicken to warn the monkey. So now, these people really respected and feared Leng Shiqi, especially when they were just talking behind his back. Now that they were caught red-handed, if Leng Shiqi suddenly killed them, they could only blame it on their bad luck. Who would have thought that Leng Shiqi would say one word with a straight face, scram? Not only did they not feel humiliated, they even felt like they had been pardoned. They all ran away in the blink of an eye. Leng Shiqi didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Of course, he wouldn't kill people over such a small matter. But seeing that they were afraid of him, it meant that his previous actions were correct. Then he helplessly shook his head and walked forward to open the door to his room. Before he walked in, he smelled a faint fragrance. A young beauty was sitting at the table. It was Sulwan. Before he could say anything, Sulwan said something out of the blue. "Be careful tonight." Lung Shiqi didn't understand. He first released a goo worm to set up a restriction, then said, "Senior sister, what do you mean?" "Tonight, someone might come to cause trouble." Sulwan indifferently said. "Cause trouble?" This was the Dark Lightning Guard's headquarters. Who had the ability, who had the guts to cause trouble here? However, Lung Shiqi knew that this might have been Sulwan's plan. He asked, "Senior sister, don't keep me in suspense. Tell me your plan." Sulwan smoothed out her hair and said, "You won't be able to spend those 400,000 spirit stones because I'm just a bait. Vice Pavilion Master wants to use me to lure out the other two people and have them appear with reasonable identities. So it's like that. Then they'll be the ones causing trouble tonight?" Lung Shiqi said in realization. But Sulwan shook her head and said, "It's not them, it's him. Only one person will appear tonight. He's quite familiar with you and wants to test your strength, so you need to prepare for battle." Lung Shiqi was even more confused. Who exactly would appear tonight? "Senior sister, you have to at least tell me everything, right?" Sulwan changed the topic and said, "You should have obtained the method for the restriction in my body. Help me undo it first." Lung Shiqi saw that Sulwan wasn't willing to answer, so he couldn't force her. He could only help her undo the restriction first. Sulwan then stretched her body, revealing her beautiful curves. Lung Shiqi finally realized that Sulwan's figure under the blood-red robe was quite good. "If you've seen enough, you can leave," Sulwan said coldly. Lung Shiqi had never tried to curry favor with Sulwan before. He could only turn around dejectedly. However, before he left, he still asked, "Senior sister, that Oyanghong just said that you don't have much lifespan left. Is that true?" Sulwan's eyes flashed with a strange light. She said coldly, "I don't have any Qingyuan bloodline. It's just something the Vice Pavilion Master used to let me smoothly enter the inner city. What lifespan? It's all a lie." Hearing this, Lung Shiqi's heart was secretly relieved, and he walked out. After he left, Sulwan's expression changed. In the end, she smiled wickedly and muttered, "Serves you right for burning down Formless Palace." Chapter 532. After being chased out by Sulwan, Lung Shiqi went to the newly built secret room. He sat cross-legged and collected all his thoughts. No matter who came to make trouble tonight, he couldn't avoid a fight. So before that, he had to adjust himself to the best state. Night gradually fell. Suddenly, there was a heart-palpitating fluctuation of spiritual power outside. Lung Shiqi suddenly opened his eyes. He knew that the person had come. When he rushed out of the secret room, there were already 2 spirit cultivators of the 29 guards lying on the ground. It was unknown whether they were dead or alive. Among them stood a masked man in black. Although his face could not be seen, his eyes, which were filled with hatred and madness, sent chills down one's spine. He showed his spiritual power without restraint. He had a strong cultivation of the middle stage of the spirit astral realm. The other members of the 29 guards also heard the sound and rushed over. Lung Shiqi raised his hand and said, "Don't act rashly. Who are you? Why did you break into the 29 guards? Do you know where this is?" The masked man said in a deranged tone, "Why do you think I broke in? You stole my sister and asked me why I came in. What a joke. If you don't hand over my sister today, even if I die, I will slaughter the 29 guards." Hearing this, everyone was surprised. They also understood that the masked man was Miss Susu's brother. It turned out that Miss Susu was forced, and now her brother came to find them. Only Lung Shiqi was speechless. He could see that Sulwan and the others were planning to put on a bitter sibling drama. He also quickly understood what he should do. In the eyes of outsiders, Susu, who he bought from the auction, was actually forced to come to the auction. Now that Susu's brother came to save her, everything was reasonable. But this was the headquarters of the Dark Thunder Guards. How could the masked man succeed? What Leng Shiqi had to do next was to take him down, but not kill him. Instead, he would use the restriction on Susu to indirectly control the masked man. In this way, not only did he resolve the danger, but he also had a spirit astral realm fighter by his side, and showed his means and shrewdness. In this way, the two people arranged by the Ink Frost ghosts were in place. Leng Shiqi's acting was also good. He played the villain and said arrogantly, "Ha ha ha, so it's my brother-in-law. You and I are a family. Why do we have to fight? Why don't you join the 29 guards and make a name for yourself as a family?" "Bah! What did you do to my sister?" The masked man's eyes suddenly. "What did I do? Heh, what do you think?" Leng Shiqi smiled. "Die." The masked man was enraged. He raised his left arm high. In an instant, an extremely sharp cyan spiritual gang burst out and swept over the entire courtyard. The violent spiritual gang was released into the tornado, which overturned all the floor tiles and smashed the newly built courtyard wall. He Feichen and the other spirit aperture realm cultivators could only use their spirit armor to protect their bodies, but they were still sent flying. The masked man's was so horrible. The moment he took action, Leng Shiqi's heart skipped a beat. The masked man was in the middle stage of spirit astral realm like Wei Xiangming, but his strength was obviously much higher than Wei Xiangming's. Most importantly, Leng Shiqi felt a sense of familiarity when the masked man took action. However, Leng Shiqi didn't have time to think about it. He trembled all over, and didn't dare to reserve any strength. He immediately transformed into the wild demon blood beast, and wild, mysterious and awe-inspiring aura constantly emerged. Facing the terrible spirit astral realm, his left hand flashed with dark golden light, and the ultimate Yang secret handprint emerged. The devil chi in his right hand rose, and a black swastika condensed. The two handprints, one in front and one behind, blocked in front of him. The cyan spirit astral realm swept over, and Leng Shiqi's arms suddenly felt a great force. Leng Shiqi's feet sank, and he stepped back dozens of feet. The ultimate Yang secret handprint in front of him had been shaking, and it was covered with cracks. After a breath, it finally shattered. The swastika of devil chi faced the difficulties, destroyed the spirit astral realm, and finally blocked it. He couldn't help but be shocked. So strong. However, he couldn't just sit there and wait for death. Thunder flashed under his feet, and the wind swayed behind him. With a slight movement, he disappeared. This was Leng Shiqi's greatest achievement in deriving spirit techniques recently. He had finally merged the purple extreme lightning steps and remnant wind swaying, creating a movement technique that was both light and mobile, remnant wind lightning steps. In terms of rank, it was stronger than the general 6th level spiritual skills. The purple thunder steps focused on the explosion of speed, while the remnant wind thunder steps was strange and unpredictable. The combination of the two made Leng Shiqi so fast that he didn't even leave a shadow. Leng Shiqi instantly appeared behind the black-robed man. The Jin Tao Stormy Waves spear carried boundless huge waves as it fell down from the sky. The man in black made a gesture with his hands, and there was a fierce whistling sound in the air. A terrible wind appeared out of thin air, and the wind swept away the clouds, and instantly destroyed the wave-like shadow of the spear. What was even more shocking was that the 5th-level spear in Leng Shiqi's hand had a thin crack. Leng Shiqi thought that this man's spirit astral realm was really extraordinary. It was many times stronger than Ji1 and Wei Xiangming, whom he had fought before. At the same time, he also found that there were dozens of spirit aperture realm and several spirit astral realm masters rushing over. So the best situation now was that the man deliberately let him defeat him. But the man in black looked like he couldn't wait to kill Leng Shiqi. He probably wouldn't let him win. But if he waited for the others to arrive, he would be captured or killed on the spot before he could defeat the man in black. What should he do? Leng Shiqi couldn't help but think that none of the people arranged by the Ink Frost Ghost Man were easy to deal with. In desperation, Leng Shiqi could only try his best. A pair of gorgeous 5-colored wings stretched out from his back, and at the same time he quickly made a gesture, and the fire spiritual energy between heaven and earth began to become violent. After that, an enormous flaming formation diagram abruptly appeared. 9 crimson gold pillars of fire that were an entire half a meter thick suddenly soared into the sky. The ground was dyed red, and an area of several hundred meters in circumference had turned into a hell of fire. 9 palace fire formation. Lung Shiqi's arms moved, and the 9 pillars of fire moved mysteriously, as if they were going to burn the man in black to death. The man in black was deep in the center of the fiery hell. He felt the terrifying temperature of the red gold earth dragon flame, and his breathing was a little difficult, but there was a hint of excitement in his eyes. Then he used his palm as a knife, and a huge knife made up of wind blades suddenly appeared, and there was a faint 7-colored light flowing in the knife, dazzling people. Seeing the familiar knife and 7-colored light, a person's name immediately appeared in Lung Shiqi's mind. He was shocked. Feng Shamo. It's actually him. Chapter 533. This black-clothed man was actually the direct disciple of the blood-clothed pavilion master, the Grand Pavilion leader of the Donglin County branch, and one of the competitors for the next pavilion master position, Feng Shamo. This was something that Lung Shiqi had never expected. Never in his wildest dreams would he have thought that Ink Frost Ghoul would send Feng Shamo to help him. Did Ink Frost Ghoul not know about Feng Shamo's ambitions? Did he not know about the awkward relationship between him and Feng Shamo? Moreover, with Feng Shamo's crazy personality, how could he obediently listen to Lung Shiqi's orders? For example, at this moment, Feng Shamo's best choice was to surrender and complete the infiltration plan. He could also build momentum for Lung Shiqi. However, looking at Feng Shamo's posture, it was clear that he was serious. The astral wind and saber light swept through the night sky, instantly stirring the wind and clouds, and the sky and earth changed colors. Strangely, the 7-colored streams of light in the saber light could actually destroy a portion of the crimson gold earth dragon flames. The saber light slashed out and cut down 5 fire pillars in the blink of an eye. Instead of retreating, Lung Shiqi advanced. Flames suddenly appeared and completely surrounded Feng Shamo. He punched out again, and the crimson sun-blazing sun palm illuminated the past and present. Feng Shamo's eyes suddenly flickered. He touched his mustard bracelet, but his movements paused and he turned to defense. Seeing this scene, Lung Shiqi finally heaved a sigh of relief. Fortunately, Feng Shamo did not get carried away, so he secretly withdrew some of his strength. Rumble! The blazing sun palm descended, and in an instant, the earth shook and the mountains shook. Endless terrifying waves of fire shook the night sky, and even the nearby courtyards were affected. Who dares to act so presumptuously in the headquarters of the Dark Thunder Guard? At this moment, a rough voice came from afar. Reinforcements had arrived. However, as soon as this person approached, he began to panic and scatter the crimson gold earth dragon flames in all directions. What the hell is this? Lung Shiqi ignored this person and fixed his eyes on Feng Shamo. Even though he had held back just now, he was well aware of the might of the crimson gold earth dragon flame. Feng Shamo had better not be seriously injured. When the flames dissipated, he saw that Feng Shamo's body had been charred black. However, through his Byakugan, he could see that Feng Shamo's body was not injured. Lung Shiqi was a little surprised at first, but when he discovered that Feng Shamo had the presence of 0 ice in his body, he understood that Feng Shamo had come prepared. He unsheathed the blood shadow sword and pressed the cold blade against Feng Shamo's neck. It was also at this time that the dozens of people had already arrived at the scene, and a large number of spirit cultivators were still rushing over. When everyone saw the assassin captured by Lung Shiqi, they all exclaimed, "The masked man is in the middle stage of Gang Spirit Realm." Can Lu Xingji catch a master in the middle stage of Gang Spirit Realm alive? You still don't know, right? 2 days ago he killed Wei Xiangming. At first, I thought that he used some underhanded means, but now it seems that he really has the strength. He's only in the middle stage of Spirit Aperture Realm, and he has such battle strength. What will happen in the future? No wonder Manager Gao thinks highly of him. Just based on his strength and talent, he deserves it. Everyone was discussing. These people who could enter the headquarters of Dark Thunder Guard were not ordinary people. However, Lung Shiqi had caught an assassin across a whole realm, which still shocked them greatly. Now that Leng Shiqi's identity as the leader of the elite society had not been spread out, everyone did not know this news. Otherwise, they might be able to accept it. Because the previous leaders of the elite society were all abnormal figures. Leng Shiqi pressed the tip of his sword against Feng Shamo's throat, his eyes as cold as ice. Now, do you still want to take your sister away? This is the headquarters of Dark Thunder Guard. Do you really think this is your backyard, where you can come and go as you please? You. Feng Shamo's eyes burst with ferocious hatred, which made Leng Shiqi a little absent-minded. Did he really do something wrong to Feng Shamo? At the same time he secretly sighed. This Feng Shamo's acting skills were simply superb. He admitted defeat. Your sister, Miss Su Su, was bought by this envoy from the Heavenly Treasure Firm's auction fair and square. This envoy doesn't care what grudges you have with the Heavenly Treasure Firm, but this has nothing to do with this envoy. Even if you want to take revenge, you should go to the Heavenly Treasure Firm, right? Leng Shiqi looked down on him and said coldly. What he said was also the whole story of what had happened to the people who came over. Everyone else also revealed expressions of understanding. During the day, the Heavenly Treasure Firm had indeed sent a carriage in. Many people had seen this. It was clear that someone had come to save Su Su. This kind of thing had happened before, but everyone just treated it as idle chatter. They didn't think that it would actually happen in the Dark Thunder Guard. However, this black-clothed man was able to sneak into the heavily guarded headquarters of the Dark Thunder Guard. This made them feel a little embarrassed, and they would definitely be reprimanded in the future. Feng Shamo said hatefully, "But now my sister is in your hands. If I don't look for you, who else can I look for? Let my sister go, and I'll let you do whatever you want with her." Umph. Leng Shiqi smiled contemptuously. You also know that Su Su is in my hands. Now not only her, but even your life is in my hands. What right do you have to negotiate with this envoy? You, as long as you let her go, I'll do anything. Feng Shamo said anxiously. Is that so? Leng Shiqi raised an eyebrow and the corners of his mouth rose slightly. Feng Shamo's temper wasn't very good. But this didn't affect his shrewdness. He also thought of the same thing as Leng Shiqi. From an outsider's point of view, Leng Shiqi's smile clearly indicated that he was up to no good. Sure enough, Leng Shiqi put away the blood shadow sword and took out a jade slip instead. Look carefully, a restriction has been planted within your younger sister's body. So long as I command it, I'll be able to make her suffer a fate worse than death. Do you want me to give it a try? No, Feng Shamo roared. Say it, I'll agree to any condition you have. Leng Shiqi said coldly. Very well, from now on, you'll be my slave and serve me as your master. Are you willing? That's impossible. Feng Shamo refused right away. Leng Shiqi's eyes narrowed, revealing a dangerous gaze, and his lips moved slightly. Feng Shamo's body immediately trembled, as if he knew what Leng Shiqi was going to do. His eyes revealed a look of struggle, but in the end, he lowered his noble head. He said dejectedly, I'm willing. Ha ha ha. Leng Shiqi laughed arrogantly, but he suddenly frowned. But your cultivation is too high. If I'm not here and you escape with Su Su, what should I do? Then what do you want? Feng Shamo's tone already had a hint of resignation. By the same logic, let me plant a restriction on your body. Only then will I be willing, Leng Shiqi said with a smile, but his smile made people's hearts tremble. Even the people who had rushed over felt that Leng Shiqi was extremely hateful. Killing the assassin was one thing, but Leng Shiqi's actions were 100 times more painful than killing him. From now on, the brother and sister pair would be reduced to Leng Shiqi's possessions. It was obvious that they would not have a good life. Of course, there were also people who felt that Leng Shiqi's actions were very correct. This was the decision of a superior. Feng Shamo pretended to hesitate for a moment, but still nodded helplessly. Then Leng Shiqi placed a few restrictions on Feng Shamo's body under everyone's gaze, then turned to the crowd and cupped his hands. My fellow comrades, for coming to my aid, this one is extremely grateful. I should have invited everyone to drink and chat. Unfortunately, this one is also injured, so I can only delay. Please forgive me. What is Lord Lu saying? Your health is the most important. We won't disturb you any longer. Lung Shiqi's strength and methods had been acknowledged by everyone tonight. There were even some people who were a bit wary of him, so they left after some small talk. Lung Shiqi brought Feng Shamo and Su Su into the secret room. At this moment, He Feichen looked at the ruined courtyard inside. Someone quickly find someone to repair the courtyard. This time, use the best materials and reinforce the courtyard with formations. Chapter 534. In the secret chamber, Feng Shamo was sitting on a chair with a gloomy face. Now his whole body was as black as charcoal, and there were many burns on his face. He looked very scary. Sulwan's mouth was also slightly open. She had thought that Lung Shiqi would suffer a little, but now it was Feng Shamo who had made a mess of him. Lung Shiqi angrily cupped his hands and said, "Greetings, Great Pavilion Leader. I'm no longer the Great Pavilion Leader. My name is Feng Mo now. I'm here to help you on behalf of the Deputy Pavilion Leader." Feng Shamo stared at Lung Shiqi with shining eyes, and his tone was emotionless. But in fact, Feng Shamo's heart was still a little shaken. Back then, he had stepped into the gang spirit realm at a young age, and was promoted to Great Pavilion Leader. He had destroyed 2 third-rate sects in a row and shocked Donglin County. He was in high spirits. This also made his ambition grow. He began to gather people to fight for the position of the next pavilion leader. But not long ago, Inkfrost Ghostman personally came to him and told him about the Bloodseed project. He also told him that as long as he could help Lung Shiqi carry out the Bloodseed project smoothly, Inkfrost Ghostman would secretly support him. So Feng Shamo came. If he could get Inkfrost Ghostman's support, his qualification to be the pavilion leader's successor would basically be secured. Lung Shiqi, on the other hand, was just an outstanding backup in his impression. When Feng Shamo first met Lung Shiqi, he was still a little spirit transformation realm cultivator, not even in the celestial realm. He was indeed a weakling. Even though Feng Shamo knew that he was the winner of the Blood Fog Island, he still didn't pay much attention to him. So Feng Shamo gave Lung Shiqi a task, which was to break through to the spiritual pulse realm as soon as possible. He wanted to see how talented Lung Shiqi was. Reality proved that Lung Shiqi had broken through to the spiritual pulse realm within 3 months, and was indeed worthy of Feng Shamo's attention. Unfortunately, after the illusory spirit secret realm, Lung Shiqi returned to the Blood Garment Pavilion, and started the Bloodseed project. The two had not met since. In the previous battle in the courtyard, the more Feng Shamo fought, the more frightened he became. This was because he realized that if he didn't use his full strength, he would really be injured by the Lung Shiqi. Unknowingly, the huge gap between them had shrunk to such an extent. Even Feng Shamo was a little scared. Would he be surpassed by Lung Shiqi in the future? Therefore, Feng Shamo's emotions were very complicated. He could only use indifference to hide his true thoughts. Sulwan noticed that the atmosphere in the room was about to drop to freezing point. She spoke up in a timely manner. "Lung Shiqi, do you have any plans after this? What do we need to do?" Lung Shiqi thought for a moment, then said, "According to the rules of the Dark Lightning Guard headquarters, every guard unit often has missions. It's just that my 29th guard unit has just been reorganized and hasn't received a mission yet. I plan to take the initiative to accept a mission in a few days. With our strength, we can complete a large number of missions and obtain a large amount of merits and experience, which will allow us to advance faster. You're following the prescribed order too closely." Feng Shamo continued. "As far as I know, there are more than 1 or 2 senior inspectors in the Dark Lightning Guard headquarters. When will it be your turn? Senior brother Feng, don't be impatient. Look." Lung Shiqi took out the inner supervisor token and said, "Actually, Eunuch Gao has already given me the inner supervisor token. I just need to wait for my cultivation and experience to reach a certain level before I can be promoted on my own." Whoosh. Sulwan and Feng Shamo's gazes immediately locked onto the token. Their eyes were more or less filled with surprise. Their evaluation of Lung Shiqi had unknowingly increased. Feng Shamo said in a low voice, "Since you've already paved the way, let's do as you say." Lung Shiqi nodded. He thought of something else and asked, "Senior brother Feng, Senior Sister Sulwan, when will the third person appear? I need to be prepared. Feng Xiaomo and Sulwan looked at each other and shook their heads. We don't know who the third person is either. The Vice Pavilion Master only said that he would appear at an appropriate time. This sentence again? Leng Shiqi had heard enough. This Ink Frost Ghost man was too good at keeping people in suspense. Leng Shiqi could only say, the two of you can cultivate in the secret room for the night. I'll go arrange your accommodations. After leaving the secret room, Leng Shiqi called He Feichen over and told him that he wanted to accept a mission as soon as possible. He Feichen said that there was no problem. As long as the courtyard was repaired, everything would be easy to arrange. Leng Shiqi looked at the ruined courtyard and felt a wave of helplessness. He also realized that no matter where he went recently, he would wreak havoc. He Feichen was just about to turn and leave when he suddenly stopped. He scratched his head and said, Sir, we can't accept any missions for the next 2 days. The day after tomorrow is the regular meeting. You have to attend. Regular meeting? Leng Shiqi was confused. He Feichen slapped his head again. This subordinate almost forgot. Sir, you don't know about the regular meeting. The Dark Lightning Guard's headquarters holds this meeting at the end of every month. Anyone with a position higher than the envoy inspector has to attend. This includes the 4 great stewards. As for whether or not the commander will be there, that's not certain. Hearing this, Leng Shiqi guessed that even if he attended the meeting, he would just be sitting around. Even the 4 great stewards were there, so where would he get the chance to speak? 2 days passed in the blink of an eye, and the courtyard had been renovated. Moreover, a few array masters had come to set up the array formation. On this day, Leng Shiqi was led by He Feichen to the meeting hall of the Dark Lightning Guard's headquarters. When he walked in, he found that the place was not small. There were hundreds of seats arranged in a circle. Leng Shiqi consciously found a corner and sat down. After a while, people came in one after another. Seeing Leng Shiqi, Wu Diao also sat down. He said excitedly, Brother Xingji, I've heard about that. You captured a master in the middle stage of Gang Spirit Realm alive. You're awesome. Some people who were dissatisfied with you before have stopped. Instead, they all regard you as a competitor for the promotion of the envoy inspector. Leng Shiqi smiled gently. Anyway, he had nothing to do, so he chatted with Wu Diao. He often locked himself up to practice, so he was not very familiar with other people in the Dark Lightning Guard's headquarters. Under Wu Diao's introduction, he got to know many people. At this time, 4 people came in, which made the meeting hall silent instantly. They were the 4 directors. Leng Shiqi had seen Eunuch Gao and Eunuch Hai. At this moment, he finally saw the other 2 directors. Wu Diao leaned over and said in a low voice, Brother Xingji, that scrawny man with sinister eyes is Chief Steward Li. Li Jucheng, you might not know, but there are still factions within the Dark Thunder Guards. The Li family is the most powerful one. Do you know that 1/4 of all the people here are surnamed Li? Director Li is the most deeply rooted in the Dark Lightning Guard, so it's not easy to provoke him. As for the burly man on the side, he is Director Shintuzhen. He has practiced martial arts and is invincible in close combat. He was born in the military and has a close relationship with many generals in the imperial capital. It's an eye-opener for me to see the 4 directors at once. Leng Shiqi looked at the 4 chief stewards and realized that among the 4 of them, Eunuch Gao had a background in the palace. Chief Steward Hai had the most seniority and was highly respected. Chief Steward Li's family faction was deeply rooted. Sure enough, the position of one of the 4 great chiefs wasn't something that an ordinary person could sit on. Chapter 535. From the moment the 4 managers appeared to the moment they sat down, no one dared to make a ruckus. After Eunuch Gao sat down, he closed his eyes and rested. Manager Hai's eyelids drooped, looking listless. Shintuzhen crossed his arms, looking like he was not going to make a sound. Wu Diao explained in a low voice, If the Grand Commander does not come, the 4 managers will take turns to preside over the meeting. This time, Manager Li will preside over the meeting. Li Juqing swept his gaze around and said, Let's begin. Next, the deputy managers of the next circle reported the important matters of the month one by one. These deputy managers were in charge of the affairs of their respective provinces and counties. They had the authority to deal with ordinary matters, but if there were some tricky matters, they had to report it at the regular meeting. Of course, if the situation was urgent, they could go directly to the four managers. Lung Shiqi lost interest when he saw this. He leaned back in his chair and dozed off. After a little less than an hour, the words of a deputy general manager shook his mind. Manager Li, the Thunder Destruction Alliance in Shantai Prefecture, has caused a lot of trouble recently, and is rapidly growing. The Dark Thunder Guards in Shantai Prefecture can no longer handle it. A bunch of trash. As Dark Thunder Guards, they actually dared to betray us and join the Thunder Destruction Alliance. Investigate the people who helped them to their positions. Li Juqing growled. It seemed that his temper was not very good. This subordinate is already investigating. The Shantai Prefecture's inspector has already resigned. That person lowered his head and said. Li Juqing said impatiently, I only look at the results. If you don't give me the name list in 3 days, you don't need to work anymore. Shantai Prefecture is in such a big mess. What did the Discipline Commission say? That person quietly wiped his cold sweat. The Discipline Commission of Shantai Prefecture did not ask about this matter. They said that the Thunder Destruction Alliance is not a spirit cultivation sect, and is just a scattered organization. They don't have jurisdiction over it. Li Juqing did not get angry this time. It seemed that the Discipline Commission's indifference was within his expectations. The Discipline Commission is a bunch of idle people. They don't have many missions in a year. I think they are about to be bored to death. What do the three of you think? Eunuch Gao and Manager Hai were still lost in thought. Only Shen Tizhen said in a low voice, there are only 2 methods. Mobilize the Dark Thunder Guards in the surrounding provinces, or send people over from the headquarters. Li Jueqing pondered for a moment and said, I remember that last time, the 29th Guard Squad was in charge of eliminating the Thunder Destroyer Union. In the end, they were almost completely wiped out. Who wants to go this time? As soon as he said this, the eunuchs and envoy inspectors all lowered their heads and looked around. It was clear that none of them wanted to get involved in this mess. According to the intelligence, there were at least 3 or 4 masters of Gang Spirit Realm in the Thunder Exterminating League. If they wanted to wipe them out, they needed at least 1 eunuch and 2 guards. However, in that case, casualties were unavoidable. Most likely, the casualties would not be small. Therefore, no matter how great the reward was, it was useless. If the resources were gone, the worst that could happen was that his cultivation would be slower. But if he was gone, then everything would be gone. Such a result was foreseeable. Of course, no one would take the initiative to go. Seeing that none of his subordinates was willing to stand out, Li Jueqing was very angry. However, he did not lose his temper. Instead, he changed the topic and said, I heard that the newly appointed envoy inspector of the 29th Guard Squad has outstanding strength and limitless prospects. Anyway, the 29th Guard Squad knows more about the Thunder Exterminating League. Why not let them go again? Lung Shiqi's eyes suddenly twitched. Recently, he had planned to take on a task, but this task was too difficult. However, he did not panic. After all, his predecessor had Eunuch Gao. Even if he had to go, he might be able to complete this task. As expected, Eunuch Gao seemed to wake up suddenly. He said in a hoarse voice, No. What can I do for you, Manager Gao? Li Jueqing seemed to know that Eunuch Gao would speak, so he turned around and asked. The 29th Guard Squad has just been reorganized. Its strength is not enough. That's true. However, I will communicate with the Discipline Department and ask them to send some people over. The Thunder Exterminating League is not a concern. Eunuch Gao glanced at Li Jueqing with a complicated expression. He said slowly, The envoy inspector of the 29th Guard Squad, Lu Xingji, is not free recently. Li Jueqing's expression immediately turned ugly. Even if he did not want to go, he should find a better reason. Not free? What kind of excuse was that? Eunuch Gao was still a little lazy. Forget it. I originally planned to say it at the end of the regular meeting. Now, I will say it in advance. Why are you not coming over? His last 4 words made everyone confused. Who was he calling over? Leng Shiqi and Wu Diyao understood tacitly. They stood up from their seats and walked over to Eunuch Gao. Others did not understand. Eunuch Gao said, I was not in the Dark Thunder Guard squad previously. Do you know where I went? Eunuch Gao was actually keeping them in suspense. This made those who were familiar with him a little stunned. However, everyone present knew that he went to preside over this year's elite meeting. However, they did not know the results of the elite meeting. After all, the elite meeting's method of selecting talents from within the Thunderfire dynasty was extremely secretive. They were afraid that someone would interfere. Now that Eunuch Gao called out Leng Shiqi and Wu Diyao, could it be that these two were the winners of the elite meeting? Eunuch Gao pointed at Wu Diyao and said, this time, the elite meeting selected a total of 5 outstanding geniuses in all aspects. Wu Diyao is one of them. Everyone immediately looked at Wu Diyao at the same time. Their eyes were more or less filled with envy. This was especially true for those who were acquainted with Wu Diyao. They had only just learned of his identity. Originally, everyone thought that he was only slightly related to Eunuch Gao. It turned out that he was one of the winners of the elite meeting. What did this mean? This meant that Wu Diao's future was bound to be meteoric. Those who were on good terms with him were secretly rejoicing. Those who usually ignored or hated him were filled with regret. Everyone then thought of Leng Shiqi. Since Wu Diyao was the winner of the elite meeting, then Leng Shiqi, who had been in the limelight recently, was probably one as well. Eunuch Gao turned his finger and said, everyone has heard of Lu Xingji's name recently. He is the champion of this year's elite meeting. He is also a personal disciple of my family. Boom. Eunuch Gao's words caused a huge uproar in the conference hall. This Lu Xingji was actually the champion of the elite meeting. What kind of place was the elite meeting? It was a gathering of the most outstanding geniuses of the 36 counties. To be able to kill his way out of the encirclement and become the champion meant that he was definitely a monstrous genius. The previous champions of the elite meeting had all become great figures who could shake a region if they did not die prematurely. They did not all stay in the Dark Lightning Guard or the Discipline Commission. Some guarded the border, some became the Imperial Guard, and some entered the Imperial family's Hall of Worship. However, no matter where they were, their brilliance could not be hidden. Chapter 536. The discussion in the conference hall rose one after another. No wonder he could kill Wei Xiangming. No wonder he could capture an assassin in the middle stage of Gang's spirit realm alive. No wonder he is the chief of the elite society. A few days ago, I thought he had sucked up to Eunuch Gao. It turns out that I was blind. What was more surprising was what Eunuch Gao said just now. The chief of the elite society was Eunuch Gao's personal disciple. Everyone looked at Leng Shiqi with not only shock, but also obvious jealousy and eagerness. The identity of Eunuch Gao's personal disciple was definitely not inferior to the chief of the elite society. The identity of the disciple of one of the 4 directors was enough for him to do whatever he wanted in the Dark Thunder Guards. Those deputy general managers, on the other hand, had thought deeper into the matter. Eunuch Gao did have disciples, but his disciples were all eunuchs in the palace and had never been transferred to the Dark Thunder Guards. Then the appearance of Leng Shiqi seemed to be a signal to inherit Eunuch Gao's position. What these deputy directors most expected and desired was, of course, to go further and become one of the 4 directors. Now the appearance of Leng Shiqi made them feel a little threatened. Li Jueqing and Shen Tuzhen also looked at Leng Shiqi with surprise. In fact, they had guessed that Leng Shiqi might be the winner of the elite society, but they really didn't expect him to be the chief. However, Manager Hai was still calm. He should have known it long ago. Eunuch Gao deliberately paused to give everyone time to digest and said, they will enter the Dragon Vein to cultivate in a few days, so Lu Xingji has no time to deal with the Thunder Exterminating League. Enter the Dragon Vein to cultivate. There was a sour taste in the conference hall unconsciously. The Dragon Vein was the lifeline of the Thunder Flame dynasty. Only the strong in the Imperial Hall of Worship, or those who had made outstanding contributions, were qualified to enter it for cultivation. 99% of the people present would not be able to enter it in their lives. So that's the case. But it doesn't matter. When he comes out of the dragon vein, his strength will have improved greatly. Then, we will have a greater chance of eliminating the Thunder Extermination Union. Li Jueqing still decided to let Leng Shiqi deal with the Thunder Extermination Union. Eunuch Gao turned around and looked at Li Jueqing. There was no emotion in his eyes, but everyone felt a chill from the bottom of their hearts. However, Li Jueqing turned a blind eye to it. Since Eunuch Gao and I don't agree, then let's have a vote. The Dark Thunder Guard has never been a one-man show. Hearing that Li Jueqing wanted to vote, Eunuch Gao's heart sank. It seemed that Li Jueqing had come prepared today. Shin Tezhen must have been bribed by Li Jueqing on this matter. And Manager Hai had lost the 28 guards to Eunuch Gao a few days ago. Moreover, Leng Shiqi had killed Wei Xiangming in front of everyone, not giving Manager Hai any face. Therefore, Manager Hai would definitely stand on Li Jueqing's side. Once the voting began, the result would definitely be 3-1. At that time, Eunuch Gao would lose a lot of face. It had to be said that Li Jueqing's move was quite good. He had taken advantage of Leng Shiqi's fame these days to rope in the other two managers. Today, Eunuch Gao had announced that he was the leader of the elite society. Other than being shocked, there was more fear towards him. The mission of destroying the Thunder Alliance was very difficult. Leng Shiqi would most likely not be able to complete it. At that time, his first mission as the envoy inspector would end in failure, and his reputation would be ruined. If he really completed it, then it would be what he should do as the leader of the elite society. For Li Jueqing, this was a business that he would not lose out on no matter what. Everyone looked at Eunuch Gao, waiting for his reaction. However, at this time, Leng Shiqi stepped forward and said, "Since Manager Li is like this lowly one can't thank you enough. I will accept this mission." The others immediately looked at Leng Shiqi in surprise. Was he crazy? Could he not see that this was a trap set by Li Jueqing? Eunuch Gao also looked at Leng Shiqi. In his opinion, no matter how strong Leng Shiqi was, he was only one person. The War Thunder Guards under him were all at the Spirit Aperture realm. They were experts outside, but it was still not enough to destroy the Thunder Alliance. Moreover, Leng Shiqi was not an impulsive person. It was impossible for him not to see the strangeness in it. Sure enough, Leng Shiqi's eyes revealed a look that conveyed a message. "I am confident." Eunuch Gao nodded without a trace and took a step back. He did not say anything more. Since Leng Shiqi was so confident and took the initiative to take the mission, this was his own choice. Then he had to be prepared for failure. Once Leng Shiqi failed, his position in Eunuch Gao's heart would also decline. In the future, he might not enjoy rich resources. Wu Diao, who had no sense of presence on the side, was also very confused. He did not know what Leng Shiqi was thinking. In fact, Leng Shiqi really had some confidence. According to the available information, the Thunder Alliance had 3 to 4 masters at the Gang Spirit realm, a dozen at the Spirit Aperture realm, and the rest at the Spirit Pulse realm. As for the spirit cultivators below the 4 realms of celestial being, they did not care about them at all. At most, they would hire some peripheral personnel to help them inquire about information. On Leng Shiqi's side, there were also a dozen spirit cultivators at the Spirit Aperture realm, especially Feng Shamo, who was at the middle stage of the Gang Spirit realm. Back then, Feng Shamo had just broken through to the Gang Spirit realm and killed the Elder of Book Mountain, who was at the 3rd level of the Gang Spirit realm, in the Golden Wing Academy. It could be seen that his strength was strong. If he fully exerted his battle strength, he could definitely be comparable to the late stage of the Gang Spirit realm. There was also Mr. Huang, who had been in seclusion for several days, and was trying to break through to the Gang Spirit realm. He would probably come out in the next few days. Then, he would have one more Gang Spirit realm spiritual practitioner. As for himself, Eunuch Gao just mentioned that he would soon enter the dragon vein to cultivate. Then his cultivation and strength would also improve by leaps and bounds. In terms of the top combat strength, he would not be weaker than the Thunder Alliance. Just now, Li Jueqing also said that the Discipline Commission would send some people over, so there was enough manpower. As for the intelligence, he was not worried. The reason why the Thunder Alliance was so arrogant now was that there were high-level members of the Dark Thunder Guards. They were familiar with the methods of the Dark Thunder Guards and could escape from the pursuit every time. So they had not found their nest yet. But don't forget that in addition to the intelligence network of the Dark Thunder Guards, Lung Shiqi could also mobilize the intelligence network of the Blood Cloak Pavilion. As long as he secretly got in touch with the branch of the Blood Cloak Pavilion in Shantai County, it would not take long for him to find out the nest of the Thunder Alliance. So Lung Shiqi took the initiative to take the task after careful consideration. Li Jueqing suddenly laughed. Lung Shiqi's approach was also a little unexpected. He could not understand whether Lung Shiqi was confident or conceited. But it didn't matter. Anyway, his purpose had been achieved. You deserve to be the chief of the elite club. Your courage alone is extraordinary. Well, after you come back from the Dragon Vein, we will set off. I will wait for your good news. Chapter 537. After the regular meeting, Lung Shiqi's name resounded throughout the headquarters of the Dark Thunder Guard. Whether it was his identity as the leader of the elite meeting, or as Eunuch Gao's personal disciple, or taking the initiative to take on the mission to eliminate the Thunder Destruction Alliance, all of these were talked about enthusiastically. And Lung Shiqi called He Feichen directly after returning to the 29 guards. Sir. He Feichen's face was a bit tired. These 2 days he was the one who took care of the construction of the courtyard, and also participated in the arrangement of the array. It was exhausting. There should be some alchemy masters in the inner city, right? How many people can refine the awakening pill? Lung Shiqi asked. He Feichen thought for a moment and said, Yes, I remember there are 3 or 4. Sir, you want to refine the awakening pill? The awakening pill was definitely the most desired resource for Spirit Aperture Realm cultivators. Unfortunately, it was too expensive, so some people would collect the materials and then find an alchemist. This way they could save some spirit stones, but it was a bit troublesome. Yes, help me contact an alchemist. I have prepared the materials. Yes, sir. He Feichen agreed. But if an alchemist wants to refine one awakening pill, they need to collect 3 sets of materials. After all, no one can guarantee success. As for the extra materials, they can keep them. Lung Shiqi didn't say anything, but threw him a mustard seed bag. He opened it and was stunned. Inside was a large amount of alchemy materials, and their grades weren't low. At a rough glance, there were hundreds of sets. These were the materials that Lung Shiqi started to collect in the West Wilderness to refine the awakening pill. When he was in the West Wilderness, he was already prepared to find someone to refine the awakening pill. Unfortunately, he didn't have the chance to go back after joining the elite meeting. Now that he was about to enter the Dragon Vein, his cultivation would definitely advance by leaps and bounds, but he didn't want to break through to the spirit astral realm so quickly. So he refined a large amount of awakening pills, and prepared to open a large number of spirit apertures in the Dragon Vein. After He Feichen was surprised, he was also a bit confused. In his opinion, Lung Shiqi was already at the 6th level of the spirit aperture realm. Even if he needed awakening pills, he wouldn't need so many, right? However, he didn't dare to ask too much. He nodded and said, Don't worry, my lord. This lowly one will definitely handle this matter well. Well, you've been busy these days. You can take 5 awakening pills after you're done, Lung Shiqi said calmly. His tone was very indifferent, as if he had just thrown 5 pieces of candy. However, He Feichen couldn't help but feel a little excited. Normally, he would have to save up a lot of spirit stones and contribution points to get a single awakening pill. Now Lung Shiqi had casually given him 5. He was also confident that as long as he could refine these 5 acupoint awakening pills, his cultivation would improve by another level. Many thanks for Darren's bestowal. This humble servant is willing to sacrifice his life. He Feichen was speaking passionately, but Lung Shiqi decided to stop him. All right, hurry up and get to work. This humble servant will take his leave. He Feichen left happily. A few days later, the 5 winners of the elite meeting once again gathered in front of the Imperial Palace's gates. After not seeing each other for a while, Everyone realized that they had all changed a lot. This wasn't because of their cultivation, but because the 5 of them now held real power in their hands. The change in temperament brought about by their status was difficult to describe with words. For example, Wu Diao had become much more confident and tactful. Speaking of Wu Diao, it was worth mentioning that after the meeting, he had also been accepted as Shintazhen's personal disciple. His status had become even more honorable. The reason why he had chosen Shintazhen was because Manager Hai was too old. He might die one day, so the gains didn't make up for the losses. As for Li Jucheng, it was obvious that he had a bad temper. More importantly, Wu Diao didn't want to get involved with the Li family. After the 5 of them met, Di Chuan's reaction was the most intense. When they had encountered the terrifying evil statue on Wugu Mountain, Di Chuan had run away because he wasn't strong enough. Although it was Leng Shiqi who had taken the initiative to let him go, Di Chuan still felt a little apologetic. After that, he had gone to take a look, but he hadn't seen Leng Shiqi's shadow. Therefore, Di Chuan had been worried that Leng Shiqi might have died. Now that he had seen him, he could finally put down the stone in his heart. With a somewhat embarrassed expression, he said, "Brother Lu, that day." Leng Shiqi waved his hand and said, "It's fine. Brother Di doesn't need to worry." Di Chuan could only scratch his head. Leng Shiqi took out a mustard seed bag and handed it to Delta Origi. Inside was the item that Ink Frost Ghost Man wanted him to give to Delta Origi. He said that it was a reward for Delta Origi from Bone Devil. However, Leng Shiqi hadn't been idle ever since he came to the imperial capital. He didn't have the chance to find Delta Origi. After he came out of the Dragon Vein, he would have to go to Shantai County. He wouldn't have the chance, so he might as well give it to them in person. The others didn't say anything when they saw this. They all thought that Leng Shiqi was pursuing Delta Origi. Only Wu Diao secretly gave Leng Shiqi a thumbs up. A few days ago, he was hiding a mistress in his golden house. Now he was pursuing Blood Moon. How amazing! Alright, there will be plenty of time to catch up in the future. Come with me. Eunuch Gao said coldly. Then, he led the 5 people into the depths of the palace. Leng Shiqi originally wanted to take a good look at the palace, but their destination wasn't the center of the palace. Instead, they took a big detour around the palace and turned into a corner. Eunuch Gao faced a shadow in the corner with a solemn expression and said in a deep voice, "Later, you must go in as fast as you can. After you go in, remember to keep quiet. Do whatever the people inside tell you to do. Understood?" Understood. The 5 people said in unison. Eunuch Gao kept making hand seals and chanting at the same time. Then, spots of golden light appeared in the shadow and vaguely formed the shape of a door. "Go in." Eunuch Gao hurriedly shouted. He didn't seem to be able to keep it up for long. Leng Shiqi and the others stepped into the light door one after another. Then, they came to a place that was shining with endless golden light. This was not the Dragon Vein, but the entrance to the Dragon Vein. As soon as they appeared, several terrifyingly powerful divine minds enveloped them. The invisible pressure made everyone's faces turn pale. Leng Shiqi had felt this pressure before. It was the pressure of an ethereal origin stage cultivator. The entrance to the Dragon Vein was guarded by several ethereal origin stage cultivators. Leng Shiqi secretly mobilized his mind power to resist the pressure. He turned around and found that Eunuch Gao didn't come in. At that moment, a dignified voice sounded. "After you enter the Dragon Vein, cultivate on your own. Don't move around casually. Otherwise your bodies and souls will be destroyed." Before the voice finished speaking, golden lights of different intensities appeared on the 5 people's bodies. Leng Shiqi's was the densest, while Wu Diao's was the thinnest. This should determine how long they could stay in the Dragon Vein. Before they could react, the scene in front of them changed again. Leng Shiqi looked carefully and found that he had arrived at a completely quantified space. The golden spiritual qi filled the entire space like liquid. However, it was a whole and wouldn't be separated. Moreover, in the middle of the golden spiritual qi, there was a streamlined golden object that was moving. That was the Dragon Vein. It didn't have the shape of a dragon, but it had the will of a dragon. As it moved, it was like the spine of heaven and earth. Its rhythm was also in accordance with heaven's secrets. This was the Thunderfire Dynasty's Dragon Vein. You're tuning in to the Lee May's Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.